All right, good morning. Good morning. Love it, Monica. Oh, goodness. Shoot. From the number of people that I've heard from, and from the number of people that I've heard from already, it sounds like we're off for the bang this year. Yeah. And then some of you haven't started yet, so you're just kind of chomping at the bit to get going. Anyway, we are very glad to have everybody here today. I know it's hard to get out of the district, but then someone said I was excited to get a day out of the district today. So with this group of people, particularly, I know everybody really enjoys being able to be together. And good morning, Kara, just like you as well. Hello. So welcome to the 2022-23 school year. We're all hoping that this is going to be a more regular type of year. Others can be too. I feel like rompering. Sorry, I would say hi to everybody when they come in, and I've missed a few people, so now I'm seeing them. And Wes, good morning. All right, that might be all. Anyway, we're going to get started. We have quite a bit on the agenda today, and I'm going to skip around in this first little section there. Just first of all, I want to welcome a few new members, and one of those would be Mr. Scott Adcock from Cloverport. Welcome, Scott. Scott is stepping in, taking one for the team, and taking over those responsibilities in Cloverport. Y'all know Michael Melton took a position in Union County, and so he, I guess, actually got this week. And I texted with him his last day in Cloverport. He was in court all day. I was like, well, that's a fun way to end your career in Cloverport. Anyway, like it is what it is. So anyway, we wish Michael well, and we are glad to have Scott with us as well. And Scott, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Like most of you, I've been in education for a long time. I think this is my 25th year overall together. I'm principal, DDP, athletic director, and DOS at Cloverport School. So if I reach out to you and say I need help, it's because I'm exhausted and I really need help with everything. But we'll juggle and get it done. You know, we always survive. So, but if y'all need anything, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help out.
We also have a new director in Grayson County, Tracy Johnston, and she's not here, I don't think today on Zoom or here. So, but anyway, I know some of you already know Tracy, and we are welcoming her to our group as well. Monica Heffron, speaking of Grayson County, left Grayson County and is the new director in Warren County Schools, if y'all didn't know that. So she's gone from being a big fish in a little pond to a big fish in a big pond.
Full of piranhas. Don't protective gear.
He's doing great on it. But she's realizing there's a lot of difference between Little Grayson County and Little Warren County, right? Yep. And then I'm sure you all know as well that Shannon Batchelor is moving from interim dose in Logan County to for real dose in Logan County. Although she was actually acting like the for real dose for the last 2 years. So we're excited for her as well. Yeah, she's doing a great job over there. All right, and I am going to actually have Jessica, I didn't tell you this ahead of time, sorry, but have Jessica Turner introduce herself. She's our newest consultant that started with us at Correct in July. And some of you already know her, but
Thank you. As Kelly said, my name is Jessica Turner. I started hit the ground running July 1st, and just excited to be able to support and learn and grow alongside each of you. I was in Elizabethtown Independent Schools for the past 22 years as a teacher, elementary principal, and director of curriculum and instruction. So I'm excited to get to know each of you and support you.
all right. I hope I didn't miss anybody. We do have a few guests today. I'm gonna let Kristen introduce herself because I'm not sure how to say the last name.
That's all right. Hi, I'm Kristen Holmeyer. I am the special education lead coach for Franklin Simpson High School, Franklin Simpson Middle School. I also help support our West Campus. Mr. Colley couldn't be here today, so I'm just again.
Yeah, and so if you all are the Crane Store, please keep Steve's mom in your prayers. She fell over her hip last night and she's having surgery today. She's 87 years old and Steve's with her at the hospital. He was texting me 11 o'clock last night. I'm like, dude, don't you know that I go to bed at 8:30? So missed that text till this morning, but anyway. So he's at the hospital and he has for him today. And I saw, where's Leanne Henson? I know you all know Leanne. She's here somewhere. Leanne Henson sitting in for Donna LaFever from Hart County. And Laurie is not a strange face, but she hasn't been here in a while, so. For our new director.
I'm Laurie Van Coney. I'm the outreach consultant for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing with the Kentucky School for the Deaf. Temporarily, I have been for a long time, but we've got a grant for language deprivation intervention. And when we get my position filled, I'm going to be stepping into that role for the next 2 years for that grant, and then I'll be back being the consultant.
While we've got you, I know we can, as I said, but what is this training all about? What we do to make the language deprivation?
Intervention, yes. So what we're focusing on is for the children that missed having typical services from first steps and preschool, and therefore their language was impacted. Like with deaf and hard of hearing children, they already have trouble accessing language. So we're seeing a huge group of students that really pretty much have no language when they're coming into preschool, getting ready to go into kindergarten. So our focus is going to be on that group. So we're looking at that in 2.5 up through kindergarten year. And we're going to work with your staff and help and develop local resources and stuff for your staff so that they can help address those language needs.
To that getting going and hear more from you about that. Will you probably won't, you'll do for the whole state?
There's going to be 2 of us. So I'll pretty much have this half of the state and she'll have that half of that. We don't have a person hired for that position yet. So the other person will be for the other half of the state. So I'll be doing a lot of working directly with the staff and doing different things and getting them the resources that they need.
Okay. If there's things that I can push out, I'll still be happy to do that through our meetings and whatever, and you're always welcome to come as well, anytime that you want to come and share about what's going on or anything like that. So, yeah, sounds good. All right. And Angel, I'm gonna have you go ahead and introduce yourself because there are some new directors and yeah, I know most of them know you, but.
Hey, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Angela Powell. I am the KSB outreach consultant for the Breck region. I do talk to some of you. I'm from BFF, so that's what I call you. I'm here if you need me for any of your BI needs.
Thank you. And you slipped in on me.
Oh, no.
I already introduced you.
Oh,
but
when I was here, that's making a great impression, isn't it?
hey, girl,
Listen,
we all got each other.
you're following me, they're not expecting a lot. In my defense, hi. Hi. Well, this is making my day much better because I went to get in the car and spilled this entire thing of coffee all over me. So, that's okay. If that's the worst that happens, it's okay today. So, but sorry. Hi.
All right. Our other non-director guests, do you all want to introduce your person real quick? I know that they are here on the regular, but just if you want to go ahead and do that. Yeah, go ahead.
So at my table with me, I have consultants and I'm overjoyed. And I have 3 of them with me today. So I have Cindy Green and she does elementary. And then I have Suzanne Hall. She does middle school and high school. And then I have Julie Open, who is elementary as well. And they're just masters of all. So I'm blessed. And thank you ladies for being here. Katie.
This is Tracy Sherrill. She's one of our special ed facilitators at Bowling Green Independent, primarily at the junior high and some elementary stuff too. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, Dana Moore, she's a special ed consultant for Todd County. And this is Rachel Webb, she's a special ed teacher consultant in Logan County.
And Jessica.
Ashley Canfield, assistant director.
Nice. So Did I miss anybody? Looking around. Anybody? Okay. All right, I have, wanted to read a card. This is actually from Shannon that she sent to the group. Back a few months ago, back in when end of May, and hanging on to it. So to the directors, I wanted to thank you so much for the beautiful pot of geranium you sent to me when my dad passed. It was very thoughtful of you, and then again, you are a great group of work friends to have. Your support and kindness shown to me the past 1.5 years as dozen, especially the past several months, has been invaluable. Thanks again, love Shannon. So just wanted to let everybody know that Shannon had sent that sweet card. And I also wanted to thank all of you for everything that you did for me while my husband was down and out. Yesterday was his 3-month anniversary, mark, whatever you want to call it. And tomorrow will be 3 months since his birthday. He has been running, he's been running like 5K again. I mean, he ran 3 or 4 times this week. It's crazy. One of our friends called him Superman, and I think he is Superman. So he's doing really well. We're doing well. Everything's going well. It's, you know, it's a really hard time, and you all are awesome to me. So thank you for that. I still get emotional, but I do. You know, y'all know, if y'all know me, y'all that don't know me know I'm a little bit of a crier, so it's not really hard to make me cry at all. But anyway, so thank you all for that. You all can see we had quite a few birthdays in July. We had Jessica Taylor, Josh Bennett, Angela Powell, Kenny Hartman, April McNaughton will be joining us via Zoom after lunch today from the Simpson RTC. Rhonda Simpson, Amy Agnew, our SPED assistant, Candy P, and Monica Hepburn, who was born on my mother's birthday and also shares a birthday with Harry Potter. Pretty darn in my book. All right, and then this month we have Alita and Heather, so welcome and happy birthday to all of you. You know what that means at lunch. And so when's your birthday?
Birthday is Sunday.
Oh, there you go. We'll add you on there. So I haven't gotten my dose directory updated just yet, so glad we didn't miss it. Okay, so Scott and all the other people that are listed up there get to go to the lunch line first. And we're having Hogswell barbecue, so it's gonna be really good. Mashed potatoes are on the menu and I'm kind of excited. All right, so welcome everybody. Now, we are going to try to be a little more interactive this year. Some of you are gonna like that. Some of you are gonna be like either externally or internally rolling your eyes. But you know what I know about this group? I love you all. I love every one of you, but y'all know each other very well. And I don't wanna like force you all like into weird, like getting to know you kind of things that make people feel uncomfortable. But y'all sit with the same people every time. And when we need to send information out, I have to put all of your first name and your last name and your district every time, or I'll get 5 emails from somebody that will say, now what district is she from again? Now, what's her last name? And I'm like, y'all, we can do better than that. We are great. We are a great group. So we're gonna kind of softly try to get to talk with other people a little bit, okay? So, my staff is gonna help me, and we're gonna start doing some more networking this morning. The first thing we're going to do is just a basic kind of actually just getting to know you, but not like in a weird way. You don't have to share your deep, dark personal secrets or anything like that. Our team is going to come around with little clipboards. They're going to help by writing all the things down. So hopefully nobody else in the group will have to do that. But you do need to pick a spokesperson, okay? And if you don't have a great person in your group, you'll need to pick a recorder, okay? And then you don't have to actually use these exact words, but these are the things I want you to cover when you go around in your little group. I want you to tell your first and last name. Since you say my name is Sandy, some people in your group might not know that your last name is your full name is Sandy, because y'all just the way it is. So your name, what district you're from, how many years in education you completed. Now, if you're the recorder, I want you to be tracking all these numbers, okay? Because we're going to get a grand total for each group about how many years of education. And then how many years you've completed as those. And then other hats you wear, okay, in your district. We already know that Scott Adcock probably wins the prize today for the most unusual or the most number of extra hats. But if you wear any unusual hats, that's your job as the spokesperson, is to share any unusual hats that any one or more people in your group wear. Like sometimes, this is not often, but sometimes somebody will also be the food service coordinator. We've had at least one person that's had that extra role. That's an unusual hat for a ghost to wear. So that's just an example. Okay, so does everybody understand those directions so far? You have a little star, and this is your color for your group. You're gonna find the piece of paper that generally corresponds to the color on your card. This is pink, and there's the pink over there. So when I say go, just get up and go to your, oh, and take your star with you and give it to your direct person when you get into your group, okay? Ready, go.
I'm grabbing that. I'm so excited about.
Yes.
So that's the cool thing here. Okay, I did that. And I was in Denver, but I was here to go actually start that there. You were doing the job. Yeah. Now I'm not doing that. Oh, yeah, we put that on our. I was devastated.
Add on.
I'm Martha, yeah, I'm the technology situation. So I'm a teaching psychologist. So I'm everything about that integration. Great, I just think I would like to do yes, I emailed them, reading. Around. Temporary dangerous. Yeah. Temporary.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even know if I can get back.
How are we doing?
From a, district.
Kenny's
And
Is anybody sure it's still introducing?
this for this, on supplementary services.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
very terrific. And I looked at it online.
Okay. All right. I'm getting the thumbs up from all of the rec people. Make sure you hand the card in, if you haven't done that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna have us go first model, but we'll get Leanne's information, so we'll start first.
Okay, I volunteered. I'm the one that drove the farmers today. We spoke for the cops that do it. So the group tally, the total number of years in education is, without Kathy is 92 years, with Kathy 126. Actually, just went ahead and did it. 126 years in this quarter. Do that time. So our group child total of years as dose is 37. Yeah, and usual hats, we have a KISA ambassador. We have a I'm the Portland Early Childhood Council Chair. And we have 5 board coordinators and we have a Kentucky case president. So we cover all of years. There you go.
I'm the spokesperson. I drove about an hour and a half to West County. Our total education over here is 91 years if we don't have Trinket, but if we do, it is 117.8. We pray about it.
Look at all those mathematicians over there.
Rick Elliott told you the dose is 24 and half. Unusual hats, we have an ESL coordinator, homebound teacher, and Heather's a homebound teacher, master scheduler, and Infinite Campus.
All right, I did our spokesperson. So our tally for our years in education is 122 without our grant consultant, but with Bryce figured in, we have 141 years. And our total years for DOS is 50 years, 2 months, and 2 weeks. So our unusual hat would be transportation, and the issue with that would be finding drugs in our Ford vehicle. And now we had to deal with that issue, so, yes.
That's only
All right, so within our group, our total number of years in education was 110.5. So we're not near 140, so. Total years as those, we had 18. And unusual hats, we've got community ed, mental ed, 504 preschool, family resource, just a lot of hats going on over here as well. You know, we thought we were doing good at 110. 140.
I said it.
And we have a smaller group, so not as many years. So total years in education, we have 67, and then we have Jessica's 90. Total years as those were at 6 years, and then I've been on for 3 weeks, so. Fairly new, we're learning. Oh, anyhow, we have a past KYTC past president and treasurer.
As a group, we have 107 years in education, 17 years as DOS, and I'm gonna pick the most unusual hat from the group, and that is bus driver for the trade school.
number of years in education, we also have 107.5. Group tally for years of dose, we have 24 years, unusual hat, language deprivation intervention. The pre-K director and the 504 special.
Thank you. All right. Molly.
Okay, so this group here, we're kind of small, but all together, our total years in education is 134. Total years of dose is only 8, but we have 27 as a school psych, 23 as a consultant. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just saying 8 years and how many days?
8 years,
2 days, 3 days?
4.
Oh, let's see, Milton left Wednesday.
Unusual hats, we have a DPP, a principal, an AD, I'm gonna look at you. 504 behavior, preschool and ESL.
All right, so y'all can make your way back to your seat, give your clipboard to your break person, give your cards to your break person, and then we'll let our friends on Zoom introduce themselves.
There's someone in the waiting room. Nancy Livett.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, Nopsy, can you, or sorry, Bolte, can you hear me? I'm
I
not-
can. Yes.
Okay, so let's let everybody get settled in. Were y'all just like saying hi to each other in the chat? Or y'all putting your stuff in there? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we did.
You tally up and you're ready to go? Okay, if everybody can listen, Christy's on the screen and she's going to do her group on all the Zoomers.
Okay. Randy and I were the only two that responded, so it's just me and Randy. So together we have 47 total years experience. Pretty good for 2 people. Total years as director is 22. Unfortunately, I make up most of those. Unusual hats. I mean, Randy is a bus monitor supervisor. And an instructional assistant coordinator. I haven't heard Title IX coordinator or school nurse coordinator or health coordinator. So I wear those hats in my district. Those are fun when we get harassment and discrimination complaints.
All right, thank you. All
Ah.
right, and I think, did Nancy Levitt just join us? Or she was on there? Yeah, there she is. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Kelly. I was late, so I actually had training that was changed this morning. So I'm going to stay on as long as I can because I wanted to catch up with you all.
Well, thank you. If you need to hop off before we get to partner updates, just let me know and we'll let you go ahead then, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Very good. All right. Look, I'm only 5 minutes behind on my estimated time agenda. Y'all, this is something I struggle with. So I did all right on that one today. Okay. So, I'm trying something new this year just to do a little New Year orientation. For some of you, you're brand new. And so I know that will be super helpful information, but also I think some of it will be helpful for just the whole group. So one thing is that I've tweaked the agenda format just a little bit. If you remember last year in the very, very top of the agenda, I was putting links to a lot of resources, things that you might need to kind of go to on the regular. And they just kept getting longer and longer. And I felt like it was kind of taking up the whole front page of the agenda, which it was. So I moved all of that to the end of the agenda. And this is a work in progress. I'm still adding to it, but I'm trying to just put a list of commonly used resources. And I've also added something similar to this in the weekly newsletter. I did just a little bit of it this week and I'm still working on it's going to be even kind of more next week. But there are things that sometimes you're like, now I know I saw that somewhere. So I'm just going to try to keep it in both the weekly newsletter, and then also I'll update this monthly so that you just always have a place you can go and look for those resources that sometimes are harder to find or that you just want to be able to have quick access to.
So I've got this divided into regional supports, state or federal tools and instructional resources. So that should be more instructionally focused. And then compliance, more like the compliance things over here. And then I'm going to start populating in this fourth box, our questions for the group responses. So when we do a question for the group and we send out a Google form and we get those responses back in there, I'm going to start putting that info in here so that you know there's always a place to go and find that. And you can give me feedback as how that works for you. I think you all know I'm happy to try to accommodate and support whatever works best for everybody. So if there's a better way to do it, I'm open for suggestions. But I just wanted you to know that all of that stuff and actually more is now at the end of the agenda instead of being at the front of the agenda. And then the other thing from the agenda format is that, I'm going to try to have us getting up and meeting new people every time we're together. Oh my goodness, I know it's going to be wild, isn't it? We can do this. Okay. I'm going to ask you all just real quickly to do 2 quick reviews. One of them is the link over here, the DOS meeting calendar. And then I also want you to double check on the DOS directory and make sure, and Scott, I know your information is not correct. I didn't even think to change you over yet, but I'll get that done. Anything that is, first of all, check it for accuracy. And then if there's any information on there that's your personal information that you either don't want to share anymore or that you haven't previously shared that you would like to share, if you can jot that down on a Post-it note from the box on your table and then leave it for me. Make sure you put your name on there and I will update that later. But I just wanted to make sure that we had that all correct. And also while you're in the DOS calendar, let me pull that up real quick. I found out after we had set our dates for small groups that we had September 21st was our small group for Barron County, but that's also preschool fall meeting date for like the vast majority of our district. So I got with Cynthia and we moved that to September 29th so that it wouldn't conflict with that preschool meeting because so many of you are also the preschool coordinator for your district. So just so you know, if you already had the 21st mark on your calendar, if you don't mind to go ahead and change that to if you had the 21st mark, change it to the 29th. Okay. And then if you will just give me like a thumbs up or something at your table when you've had time to look at the calendar and the directory. So I know that we're ready to move on. Good in the back. Good. You might need more time. I guess I could also ask it that way. I want to rush anybody. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to go over is how to request support from Greg. And we've kind of toyed around with this form. We used to have a paper form and we've done a lot of different things. There was a time that we, because of some, at that time, grant requirements from KDE Oakville, we were collecting information from your district every time they wanted any kind of support, like a training or long-term coaching or anything like that. But that's not really, we don't really need that information for KDE anymore. So I'm trying to simplify your all's lives and not have you have to do something extra. I never ask you, I don't ever like to have anybody fill out a form or do anything if it's not actually necessary for, for a specific purpose. So I've tweaked it again for this year. And what's in there now is this is just if you want to request support around an individual student. So like that individual, what we used to call an individual student consultation, but we call it a student-centered request, support request. So look, I started putting it together, like just filling in like little letters the other day so I could make it go forward to the next page. So just ignore all that. But you're going to have the person making the request may or may not be, this is just one thing I wanted to point out, may not be the same person who's the district staff member who will actually work with the grant consultant. Okay. So it could be that you're filling this out and then maybe you've got an instructional coach or an assistant director or some other, some type of consultant who will be the actual district level person who's gonna be doing the, kind of working on the consultation with the GREC staff member. But it also could be the same person. So you could shoot that form over to your instructional coach or your consultant and say, go ahead and get this form filled out and get that sent over to GREC. So anyway, who's making the request and what's that person's job title and the name of the district? And then who's that person who will actually do the meeting and planning? And then if there needs to be observations, that person is saying that they're going to go alongside the GREC consultant to collect that behavioral observation of the student. And then do the planning with the GREC staff members and the school staff to develop, implement, and monitor whatever interventions are determined. Part of the reason that we do it that way is because part of our goal is to help districts build capacity. And I know some situations are like one-off, like super unique, but a lot of times if we work with district level, then we build a capacity of skills that can be used the next time around where you become more independent. And not that we don't ever want to come and help anybody either, but when there's 34 districts and if just for example, if all 34 of you requested an individual consultation within the same week, it would be a while before we could help each district individually. So we try to build that capacity so that you can help yourselves first before having to reach out. Okay, so then anyway, the email of that person, and then just identifying other teachers or school personnel who will be part of that consultation. So that's the first part. And then when you get here, that's when we need that student information, name of student, school name, what are their identified areas of disability, grade, age, and then here, this is a paragraph where you can put in the reason for the request. What is it that you need? And then also identifying interventions or strategies, et cetera, that you have implemented already. That helps us to know kind of where to start. And then have you been in contact with a GREC staff member? If you click yes, when you go on to the next page, then it will just ask you to identify the name of that person. Because a lot of times, and this is completely fine with me, you all have already reached out and said, hey, Deb, hey, Lauren, hey, whoever, Kathy, I've got this situation, and then they'll go, oh yeah, fill out the form, and then we'll get started or whatever. So that happens as often, probably more often than somebody emailing me first. So that's what that's for. Just so when the forms come to me, and then I know, okay, Kathy's already working with them, they've already connected once, and it just kind of speeds everything along. So just, are there any questions about this form before I go on to the next thing? Okay, last thing I'll say is that once our staff member gets that, they'll probably contact you and ask for more information, to see, help them get started. But, we used to, if you remember, if you've been around, even 5 or 6 years as a director, you'll remember that the process used to be that you had to get permission in the ARC meeting from the parent, and that you had to submit this big fat paper packet that had to be mailed to GREC, and it had to have the IEP and all of this stuff. And after a lot of conversation, some with you all and some within our own staff, since we receive funds from KDE, I mean, we can come in and monitor, then we can not monitor, we can come and look at folders if you all invite us in, like we can look at your IEPs. We were like, we probably don't really have to have permission from the ARC, and we really should not be going to ARC meetings anyway. So I kind of just took that part out a long time ago. And then after that, it sort of evolved into, do we really need to make them copy all this paper when we can go in the district and look at the IEP when we get there? We can ask those specific questions about what we need to know. So again, it was an attempt to try to take a load off of you all for having to, seem like a lot of work to go through just to kind of get a request going. So if you're wondering why it looks a lot different than it used to, that's the rationale behind that. And again, as you all know, if there's any concerns with the way we're doing it or anything that you think would make that flow go better, we're always open for any kind of feedback. Okay, now we're going to talk about the lending library, and Lauren is going to come on up, I think. Do I need to open which one first? The slides? All right. You all know Lauren Budziak, our fabulous AT consultant and communications disorder consultant. She's been working with
so many of your staff members in the last year. We're just super excited to have her on board.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been a great year, of getting to dive into all things AT and communication disorders. And, I've enjoyed getting to know some of you, and I look forward to getting to know more of you. We wanted to just update you a little bit on some things happening with the AT Lending Library here at Greg. So we've stuck the slide deck in the agenda, so you have access to all the links.
Sorry, I was trying to get
No
this to go. I'll push for you if you want me to.
So just as a reminder, we have a lending library. It's designed to provide all of our educators with access to high quality assistive technology devices and tools to utilize with students in your district on a trial basis, in order to help you and, inform decisions about AT purchases that you might make in your district.
I have no idea where that just happened. I did not touch anything, I swear. Let me get back. Oh, Lord.
Lost without a slide.
Sorry,
No,
that's
it's
my
fine.
fault.
Um,
There we go. That was weird.
So, so we have all these items here that are available for you and for your staff to take, to check out, to try with your students before you spend your district dollars on those items. You go and look at. So our Lending Library database is a Google document. It's currently housed on the Fred website. I just linked in the slide deck as well.
It's playing video.
Oh.
Playing that video somewhere.
That second bullet point that's on there is just a quick loop video that shows how to get to it. I was not gonna play it. So it is a Google document database. You can either scroll through the document, or if you're looking for something in particular, you can do a quick search in the database. It's Command F if you're on a Mac, or Control F if you're on a PC or Chromebook. And so you can search by specific items if you kind of know what you're looking for, or you can also search by descriptive terms to kind of get a more broad idea of what we have in there. If you find something in the database, you or one of your staff members that you want to check out, you can either use the request form that's linked here, and Kelly linked it in the agenda as well. If you fill out that form, it will send an email to us that says, hey, we need to get with you to get you that item. You're also more than welcome to contact us directly, and I know some of you have done that before, reached out to me or one of our other staff, and that's totally fine as well. Once we get those materials to you, you'll receive a Google form, a sign out form that gets emailed to you to show that that item has been checked out. And materials are borrowed for 30 days before they are returned back to us. So some of the new updates and information this year, we are currently trying to remove some of the either outdated items or items that just have not been very frequently checked out. So we do have some lovely party gifts that are available for you today. This part up at the front is some items that we have removed. Like I said, just things that weren't being checked out very frequently. So feel free to peruse this part. And if you find something that would be useful for you or your staff in your districts, please take it with you today. We're also trying this year to continue to get the word out about our lending library so that folks in our districts know about the resources that we have. So we're doing some lending library showcases this year. We'll be featuring some of the lending library items at selected trainings that we're hosting at Greg. So our items are stored in our shed, which we don't really, take our participants out there. So during some of our trainings, we'll be setting up some tables, have some items out so that, your staff members that are coming to our training can see some items and also, see the database as well and ask questions that they might have.
If you all would like us to showcase during DOS meetings here, just give Lauren or I an email and we can start setting some things up here as well. She could do like a 15-minute share or something like that.
Absolutely.
If y'all want us to do that, just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other way that we're kind of sharing a lot of information about the lending library is through the AT network, which I think might be on or I have something on there. We have been adding, as we're having items checked out, we've been adding QR codes to them just so that when a staff member gets an item checked out from our lending library, they can scan the code to go to a manual or a video tutorial so they have an idea of how to implement that technology. And I'm always, willing to provide any coaching or support that's needed, but we added that tool as well. You'll go ahead and click on one more. And then I wanted to add this in here as well, because our AT network members are, ones that also are getting lots of updates about our lending library as we add new items. When that group meets here with us at Breck, we tend to have lending library items out and available to look at. So the group meets, 3 times per year and also has email updates. And so I added some links in the slide deck. If you want to check that list and see if your district has a representative in the AT network, and if not, you are welcome to add someone to that network, so they're involved in those conversations about, our AT items. And if I can do anything for you, AT or communication disorders wise, let me know.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
All right, any questions for Lauren about anything she just went over? I'm gonna give you a quick chance if you wanna, if you've clicked on that slide deck from the agenda and look in there and look at your list to see if you wanna add anybody from your district to the AT network. While you're doing that, I will just go ahead. I think we can multitask on this one. Stephen Guthrie, I don't even know where Stephen is today. I haven't heard from him. He's sick. Oh, he is still our Infinite Campus rep, and last year he created a Google form that's called Infinite Campus Q&A for CJIC. So you can access that form anytime you have a question that you would like Stephen. Sometimes he can just brainstorm and problem solve with you based on what that is, or sometimes it's things he takes back to CJIC on behalf of Breck. He's very responsive. He's great about advocating for Breck and for the needs of districts in that CJIC group. So please use that form and put anything in there that you would like Stephen to help with, either you personally or just more globally, you know, like when you see an Infinite Campus issue that you think needs to be addressed at CJIC or whatever. Okay. So that's in there as well. That'll just be one of those running types of resources, links that are available for everybody. And then several years ago, about this time of the year, when I had a little, you get to the end of a grant cycle and you sometimes have a little bit of money left to spend, you're like, what am I gonna do? Not a large amount of money, but anyway, I ended up purchasing some codes for people. This is really for your OTs and your OTAs who are oddly enough by regulation required to have 6 hours of suicide prevention training every, I don't know how many years, 3 years, maybe 5 years, I don't know, but every so many years, all OTs and OTAs by regulation have to have 6 hours of suicide prevention training. And when I first started, we used to kind of host something at Breck, but that's like a one time and it's in person and everybody can't get there always. And so that doesn't always work for everybody. So anyway, I purchased a bunch of codes and this is a completely free service for you. If you have OTs or OTAs, there are 2 courses that are approved for them to get their suicide prevention hours. When you click on that link, it gives you a directions page about how, so you can get it to your OTs, and they just contact Amy Agnew and she gets them a code. They go online, there's 2 different courses, there's 6 hours worth of training. They have to take a test at the end. I think they can pass it 70% to get their certificate, but I think you can take it like 8 times. So I think we'll all be able to pass at the end, and then they can get those hours that they are required to have. And that's just maybe like a no cost way for you to help your OTs get those hours in. So I talk about this, but I don't talk about it enough. I'm going to try to keep that on the forefront because we haven't used those a lot. And I think it's just because I haven't done a good job communicating about that to make sure everybody knows that those are available. So, just so you know that those are there. All right. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, just before I forget it, I don't want to get off of this and not ask this question. If we contract with OPs, the assumption would be that their employer would be doing that, or, I mean, I've got it on my notes to check with them. I'm just wanting to ask.
And is it only if they're in the school system?
Yeah,
school regulation.
I think it might be a school regulation. Let me double check on that. Can somebody either shoot me an email so I don't forget, because y'all know I am
the one that had 30 years of educational experience over here, so my brain doesn't work as well as it used to.
Right.
Thank you, I would appreciate that, and I'll double check on that and let you all know. But I think Robin's correct, I think it's a school-based regulation.
Our high school teachers, anybody with the older kids, well, might not just be high school. I think we all were. Yeah, they had to do the suicide prevention video.
It's not 6 hours, I think it's 1 hour.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a kind of an odd, it's kind of one of those little quirky, odd regulatory things that just impacts the OTs. I was like, not PTs as well? No, just the OTs. Okay, so anyway. Thanks, that's a great question, Kenny, and I'll follow up on that. You're welcome. Okay, 60-day calendars. Just want to make sure everybody got theirs, first of all, if, from Amy. Amy Agnew took over doing that from Christina. She got those. I had a complete moment of panic because it was off my radar with all the whole pod thing going on. I've not been on my A game. I know that in some ways in the last few months, but all of a sudden one day I was like, oh my God, I didn't talk to Amy about 60-day calendars, and she had already done them and sent them out to everybody. I was like, oh, thank goodness. So just know that, that's a lot. It's 34 different calendars that she does. So on occasion, we might find an error in there. So if you see an error and you want her to correct that, just let us know. We'll get that fixed up for you. But I think everybody, I haven't heard anything at this point, that anybody's had any issues with those. So I'll just tell you, that's one thing that all the other co-ops, other districts are real jealous about, because our co-ops don't do those for them. And that's just one of those things that sort of was in place when I got here. So several people like, please keep doing those. I was like, okay, so we just do them every year. So anyway, we're happy to do that. Anything, like I said, anything that can take a load off you all, your staff, that's what we're here for. So I'm glad that you all like those still, and that those are helpful for you. Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about corrective action process and supports, but I think okay, let me ask you, I'll get your feedback here. This will be, not super long, but it may be a little more lengthy. So would you rather go and take a break now? And also only been an hour, or would you rather go through this and then take a break? Do you have a preference?
Let's go.
Let's go, keep going. All right. Closer toward lunch, right? Did I already tell you we're having hog wild barbecue? It's gonna be really good. I'm really hungry today for some reason. I'm kind of excited. Okay. Did I already have this open? Yes. Okay, Grace, are you still sharing for me over there? Is that what happened a minute ago? Okay. Do you need to do something on your side?
Would you like to share your screen so our virtual friends can see what you're looking at?
I would love to do that. Let me do that real quick. All right. Can you just make sure, give me a thumbs up that they can see? Are we good? Okay, perfect. The clicker's not working, so I can't really walk around, which I hate. But anyway, I thought it would be helpful to just try to give a little bit of an overview about the corrective action process. I know it's hard to believe for some of you, but there are literally some people in this room who have still never. I know, somebody's like, stop, how's that happen? Before I start this, let me just tell you this, that the indicator 11, 12, and 13 letters did go out on Katie Eve's time when they said they were going to, which was August 15th. Perfect timing, right, for school, bless everybody. And so if you didn't get a letter, you didn't get that right, okay? So for Tracy, 2 weeks ago, and she got 2. I know.
Blame Monica.
Okay, thank you, great. Okay, so if I can remember this, we got 2 districts got indicator 11, that was Clinton County and who else? Anybody here got indicator 11?
I'll think of it in a minute. Grayson County got 12 and 13. And you got 13.
Well,
12, you had 13, no, you had 11 last year. You got 12, somebody else got, so these two got 12, and then there were 3 that got indicator 13, Grayson, Hardin, and I don't remember. I thought I would remember, but I don't remember now. Anyway, oh, Metcalf got 13. Okay, literally, Jamie Moss called me, he was like, I don't know if Jamie's gonna retire this year or not, but I think this is his 27th year. He's like, I almost made it, you know, to the end, because he's like literally never had even one desk audit, one anything, and now his last year, he got indicator 13. So I was like, probably, and he's on the video, I think. Jamie, sorry, but nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody who's had 100 cats, or desk audits feel sorry for you. Just kidding, we do feel sorry for anybody.
I don't blame them, but I think KDE's just trying to show me the door. They're like, here's a little extra nudge in case you were thinking.
No, we do feel sorry for you, but not as sorry as we feel for Tracy, if you got to. Just kidding. Or Jessica, because they hardly had like 1,000. So, anyway, we're just
Family review.
or Clinton County, y'all, Clinton County had, its on-site audit last year and alternate assessment participation guidelines and indicator 13 and Medicaid, and I think one more. And then dang Eddie got indicator 11 and IDA fiscal audit. Anybody else get fiscal audit right now? Like they came out about a week before, like the first or second week of August. Anybody here get IDA fiscal? Okay, just know you're all everybody is going to get that. Everybody is a requirement from the federal level for Kentucky that every district will get that IDA fiscal audit. So it's not like, so when you get it, don't be like a little, I got picked on or whatever. Everybody has to have one and they just kind of go in cycles with them. And we're probably not quite halfway through our, like the grant group, I wouldn't think. I don't really know how they take every time either. It's not by alphabetical order. So I don't know what type of random selection process they use for that. But anyway, that's why I'm having that session here. And I apologize if on the same day Teresa Tom, but that was me not thinking. But if you want to learn from others, there are things that you can be doing now that will prevent you from having a corrective action when you have that audit. 100% guaranteed, because there are things that you just don't know about the way you're supposed to be. Things that you have to have as a written process that you might be doing, that if you don't have it as a written process, you're going to get written up for that. Things that you have to, like the way you have to tag certain things in your district, your maintenance of effort, not your maintenance of effort, your time and effort. There are certain things that you're probably not doing the way you're supposed to. Come to the session. Candy's going to be here to share. She was the go-getter, first one in Breck to have the IDA fiscal audit, and her finance director. Bring your finance directors with you. If you can get out of the district for half a day and come, and I think it'll be very beneficial for you to hear all of those things. And it's because that's it. You might not completely get out of a corrective action when you have your audit, but you'll be able to do a lot of the things right now that will prevent a lot of that from happening to you. Okay, so I did definitely strongly, I don't know if need you, I'm buying you breakfast, so come on and bring your person. Yes, Johnny.
When they do the fiscal audit, is it like a recent, or do they go back so many years? They go back so many years.
So Kelly, the big thing is, I mean, we're open to the changes as directors, but if your finance people that will not want to go back and make those changes. So, because they're gonna ask them, we just started our CAP in Davis County. And so they are gonna ask the finance officers to go back and do some journal entry corrections and some big corrections that they're gonna be really opposed to. So, no, you won't once you get under the cap, but they also told us that every district will get a cap.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, some of the things, if you had known and you could have gotten your finance director to work on it before, then you might might have gotten other things, but you just hit all the things. I mean, there are things that you can, if you want to be proactive, there are things you can do to limit. I mean, I know, once you get audited, you're almost always gonna
And if
get
you
that.
said we've already got this in place, we're going, I think we're looking more favorably on that.
Yeah, written processes and tagging things and having some protocols in place. I mean, there are things you can definitely be doing. From what I've heard from the rest of you all. Yes, great.
How often should time and effort be completed?
How often should time and effort be completed? All right, so if your person is 100% paid out of IDEAB, okay, they're 100% out of their grant fund, you have to do a semi-annual certification. I've got forms I'll share with anybody if you want a sample form. If they're paid out of more than one grant source or general fund and one grant source, that counts as more than one grant source. So then you have to do something called a personnel activity report. Actually, you don't even have to do that, but that's the most easy way to do it. But it's a monthly. You have to have a monthly accounting, and you have to be able to show how that person spends their time on a day-to-day basis. And that's one of the things they've really been getting the districts for, is that they don't have a mechanism in place to show that Jessica spent 30% of her time doing special ed assistant duties, and 70% of her time was doing gen ed intervention or whatever it might be.
So Jonathan Compton still becomes. September and.
Awesome, that would be great. So yeah, hit that session and the Dose Institute, Jonathan. I mean, the more you can learn, the better off you'll be, is what I would say. So anyway, you have to do that monthly. And then the other thing, whoever asked that question in the chat, that you have to do with those monthly forms is that you have to have a protocol in place, some kind of process where every so often you or your finance director, the two of you together, sit down and you look at those monthly reports. So like you have your little sheet, and maybe I'm just gonna use Kara's example. So Kara is 70% IDEAB, and she's 30% general fund. Okay, she does this other thing over here, she's general fund. All right, so she fills out her monthly report, and every month she has to say, well, this month, for the hours I work, my percentage for IDA was this much, and my percent from general fund was this much. So that's for August or July. Then in August, she does it again. So say in July, she was actually like 80% IDA, 20% general fund. Then in August, she was 65% IDA and 35% general fund. Then you have to have it where you're averaging out over time. For the year, what would that average for each of those be? So over time, you want the average amount spent to be what you said it was going to be, because you're saying we're paying this salary out of this fund, and it has to match pretty much what you said. So if you say I'm going to pay 80% of somebody's salary out of IDAB, at the end of the year, you either have to pay 80% of their salary out of IDAB, or you have to modify your budget to reflect the difference. So if you ended up only working 70% out of IDAB, you can't charge your IDA grant that extra 10%. You have to charge that to where they actually spend their time and effort. Does that make sense? That's what they're really looking for, and they're getting pretty in the weeds with that. We do that all the time at Greg, because we have like 8,000 grants, and we have people on all kinds of different monthly personnel activity reports. So that's something, I don't know a lot, but that's one thing I know really well, because I deal with it like on a daily basis. So I can help anybody with that, but also the people who've been through the audit can tell you how they've done that at the district level as well.
Yeah, you get the sick, like there are sick days.
The sick days,
Like if they're out, say you get the bed in that calendar this month. Oh, it's hard.
I don't know. My understanding is that you just have to account for the day that they work.
Do you have one for the that one as well? You sure?
I will, but you have to send me a reminder. Because remember, I'm old West, not young like you. All right, yeah, I'm happy to share any of those forms. I will tell you that several years ago, I sent my forms to Carla Miller at Oakville and asked her if she would look at them and tell me if they would be appropriate to use And she emailed me back and she said, your forms are better than my forms. Can I use your forms? So I know my forms are acceptable to at least the OSEAL. Because I just tried to make it follow what the regulations said it had to have on it. So, anyway, I'm happy to share those with anybody. Okay. So I'm not sure how we got there from here, but anyway, I'm gonna jump, I was giving the update on who got it so far. Okay, so let's jump in here and talk about the IDA audit and corrective action process. Okay, so the Office of Special Education at the federal level requires all states to have monitoring mechanisms in place around, what they call their SPP APR indicators, state performance plan, annual performance report, I think is what all those letters stand for. So for the first set of indicators there, going from the line that says data review, that is just from data. There's no desk audit, there's no on-site audit of those. That is just what is it at the end of the year. So for example, indicator 1 is graduation rate. So that is your graduation rate for students with disabilities. At the end of the year, what is it? What is it compared to the target rate? Did you meet it or surpass it? That's a yes or a no for you. Okay, does that make sense? Those data reviews? All right. Desk audits are ones that they are required by OSEP, that all of those, your district has to be either, depending on which way is better, you either have to be 100% compliant or you have to be 0% compliant. Like 4B is suspension expulsion, so that's 0%. Like you're not even allowed to have like the 1 or whatever. Okay, so over 10 days is what it is, not just a suspension. Let me clarify that. So those they have to do some type of desk audit process. So for some of them, it is completely based on data. So 4B, I didn't put a slide in here on this, I just thought about this. So for 4B and 9 and 10, they go through every district annually, and they look and see what your percentage is, and if you're over, the certain percentage, you get the desk audit letter. That doesn't mean you have a cap when you get that desk audit letter for 4B, 9, or 10. You just have to show that, okay, our percentage is not where it's supposed to be. Is that legitimate? Are we actually doing things correctly? So 9 and 10 are disproportionate representation. So we have districts I would say that our region gets more desk audit letters for indicators 9 and 10 than any other region, because we have more diversity in our region collectively than all the other regions. So we usually get 8 to 10 districts every year that get an indicator 9 or 10 desk audit letter. But we hardly ever get anybody get a corrective action for indicators 9 or 10, because you all do a really great job of making sure that you've got the correct eligibility evaluation plans in place, and you're meeting your timelines, and you're doing all those things, and you're determining eligibility correctly. So you typically don't get those corrective actions in those areas. Does that make sense? But you get the desk audit because it's just you either meet a criteria or you don't meet it. And if you don't meet it, you get a letter. Okay. So I know we all feel picked on, and sometimes it feels probably sometimes it might even be legitimate, or maybe feels legitimate, but these are just what KD has to do. Okay. They have to send those letters out, and then they have to do those folder reviews. Okay. 11, 12, and 13 is based on data you submit, right? And if you're not the preschool coordinator, then you don't do 12, probably somebody else does that. But it's like pretty much, well, it's not exactly like 11, but it's the timelines for transition from early childhood to into school. So for 11, 12, and 13, for 11 and 13, you do that report in the summer. And then in that, you do your random selection of your folders, and then you say, were we compliant 100% or not with our timelines and with our indicator 13 transition? And if you say no, then you're automatically going to get a letter and you're going to get corrective action. Because anybody, well, you might not want to say if you said no or not, but what'd you say?
I said, you say yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I was looking at another co-op little list the other day, and they had a lot of districts self-report. I was like, that's unusual. I mean, but if you self-report 100%, I mean, you are getting a corrective action. You're telling them we're out of compliance, and so therefore you're going to have corrective action. There's not really any way around that. So you can
randomly select.
You can,
Yes.
you can take another random selection. I'm not gonna get into all that, but what they do, what they do for all the districts in the state is they were 100% compliant. They do a random selection of 10% of all of those districts who said they were 100% compliant, and then you get a desk audit from that. So if you got that desk audit this year, you're one of the lucky 10%. Now, ironically, the numbers of districts selected this year is like virtually even for each of the co-ops. Except Payback, who didn't get any this year, because I guess if you have flooding, then you shouldn't get a desk audit, which is fair if you actually had flooding in your district. Maybe not fair if you just happen to be in that region and you didn't have any flooding, but anyway, so no district there, but it's random. All right, that's all I'm gonna say about that. So that's how that works, and I hope that's helpful. You forget after you've done something for a while that you've never had one, or if you're new, you might not know how that process works. We're not gonna really talk about on-site audits or formal complaints or due process today. I'd be happy to talk about that another time if people want to know more about that. But that's another requirement of KDE seal. They have to do so many on-site audits every year. And we're gonna learn more about that, whatever this new risk focused compliance. I don't know what they're calling it, but they're doing something new. And I'm sure they're gonna launch that at the DOS Institute. So we'll learn more together about that. And then of course, formal complaints or due process are being, those brought on by a parent. So, okay, so that's all of that. All right, here, I need to move this out of the way. Okay. So I thought it might be interesting. I promise I'm not gonna read all this to you. I'm just gonna stick a slide up and let you kind of take a perusal of the data. But I want you to really look at this, or you can look at it in the slide. You can look at it here, or you can look at it on your computer. Because in a minute, you're gonna get your little groups again. You're gonna talk about this data. So just know that you need to do processing. What you're gonna be looking for is things you notice about this data set and things you wonder. Like things you notice that might be trends in our region, or things that are maybe strengths for our region, things you wonder, why is this outcome so low for correct, for example, or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to just flash these up there. You can give me kind of a thumbs up when you're ready to go to the next slide. I'll also answer any questions about them that you want me to. I try to put each indicator, what it is. And then the target is the state target. They just reset the targets. I will tell you that they had to bring them down a little bit in a lot of cases. So what is the target, and then what's the rec region average for that indicator? Okay, so this is indicators 1 through 6C. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go to the next slide. And I'm not trying to hurry anybody either. If I want more time on this slide. Can't get too far away from it apparently. I think it needs a new battery. All right. This is 8 through 14. All right, this is all the assessment data starting here, indicator 3A. There's a lot of assessment data because it goes by, there's 4 parts to 3, there's A, B, C, D, and then it's 4th grade, 8th grade, high school.
This is also for the 2021 school year. I don't know if that's, I don't know if I put that on the slide or not. Ready to move on, or are you still looking? They're mired down in data here, no one's even talking anymore. All right, here's 3B through some of 3C. 3A and 3B are students with IEPs that are not on alternate assessment. 3C is alternate assessment proficiency. This is 3C, the rest of 3C, and then 3D. This is new. This is a new OSEP requirement that's called assessment gap. So it's the difference between students. I'll have to go look that up. I think it's the with and without. That wouldn't make sense. Is it with and without IEPs, or is it IEP versus alternate assessment? I'll look that up on the break and tell you. I'm not 100% sure what that one is now. Okay, this is preschool. I know all of you aren't preschool coordinators, but your district still does get assessed on the preschool overall, so it's important for you to have some awareness. Also, some of our preschool indicators are really, really bad in our region, and that's my wonder, why are our preschool indicators not on par with the rest of the state? Oh, there's more. 4B. See, this is the ones I was talking about. These are the desk audited indicators. So 4B has to be 0% and ours is 2.86. That's weird. I wonder if I made an error there on the disproportionate representation. I'll have to go back and look and see. I'm always suspicious that the numbers are exactly the same. So I might have made a lot of numbers yesterday and the day before. Like I said, we almost always have districts on several in indicator 10, especially. 100% child find last year, baby. Woo! Go correct. Early childhood, very high. Secondary transition was also very high. Okay, that might be the end of it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so why don't we, let me ask you this. You want to finish this out and then I want y'all to be able to concentrate on the task. So let's take a break. Let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll get our cards and we'll go to our new area when we get back and we'll have our next activity. So we'll be back in here at 10:35. All right.
So she is.
How are you?
Have you survived?
I'm always gonna survive.
You don't start till what, 31st? I'm sure.
But
It is what it is.
for any timeline issues. I've got
That's correct. Okay.
Find people and gather amazing. We're here for that. This is been really good timeline.
Then you have another.
Then we've got most of it handled.
So you also got it. Yeah, she contacted me and said, where would I get her? And I'm like, well, you know, like, I don't know.
Got it.
Well, with their time, it's hard to get in your being followers. She found out how to get to them, I told her, and she didn't know. Well, not if you get the short tours.
Touch base.
What makes teaching things easier to do? Yeah, for sure.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
You got me.
Well, good, good. I'm glad they're taking care of it. And it's good. That's all. I'll take care of it. I guess she's more anxious in the same page.
That's what it is. So. Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and get our stars and go ahead and make our way to our color, please. Find your stars, make your way to your color. Having trouble with all the Okay. Everybody should be in a group. Do you have a correct person in your group? Where's our? Okay. 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 Lauren's coming. All right. In your groups this time, again, I know some of you already started. Thank you for being the overachieving group in the back there. I love it. It's been great. Again, your drag friend will be your reporter. Pick your spokesperson. Please listen. The only rule about spokespersons is if you were spokesperson the last time, then you don't have to be spokesperson, not that you don't, or you could be like you really love being spokesperson. I guess you can say, let me be it every time, but ideally you will not be the spokesperson this time, and somebody else will definitely be spokesperson. Okay, so I want you to reflect on that data dive. I know it's pretty quick, but looking at those targets and our rep data,
have some discussion, get some ideas jotted down, what do you notice and what do you wonder? Okay, take about 4 minutes.
Okay, so that should be, they should be able to roll on there.
Okay. So, I did on the last time, I think, or did I do it on the chat? They were in the chat. Oh, you're not on Zoom. Well, I am, but. Are you not jotting down?
Yes.
Randy, are you able to hear me?
Hey,
Can you all hear each other?
Christy,
Hey. All
Hey,
right, so I
Christy,
guess-
can you all talk to each other?
yes, I'm talking right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can you hear us, Kelly?
I'll let her know in the chat, Randy.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yes, okay, okay, good, thank you.
So, Christy, where's the data we're supposed to be looking at though?
Well, I had to go back into our shared drive, the director's shared drive. And then she has, let's see, it's called, she titled it DOS 819 slide deck. So it is, the GREC versus the target data and indicator 1 through 6. And then the next slide is what? 8, 14, 8 and 14, and then, so forth.
Okay, I'm looking
So I
for it.
guess that's what we're supposed to be looking at.
So I'm in your shared drive and I'm looking at the copy of those 819 slide deck, and that's what I need to look at.
Yes, yes. And let's see, the data starts on page 5.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And then, our new superintendent.
Are you seeing it now?
I'm seeing it. So our graduation rate is above the target.
Yes, which is actually kind of surprising to me. I would think that it would be lower, but anyway. Dropout rate is below. That's awesome.
Very good.
Regular class, yeah, we're higher. Regular class in 5B is lower. That's good. I think for the last several years, we've pushed into the, the gen ed class more and more.
I think so too.
Which I think is good, actually.
Oh, yeah.
5C, that is surprising because my district, I have, it seems like 100 kids in my special classes. You know what? I may actually have 100 kids in my special classes across the district, but we're having more and more severe disability kids coming in.
We are too. We're a small district, and I have 50 instructional assistants working in the district for special ed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's like, when I came, it was like maybe 30.
Well, I have 4 special classes. So each one of those has, in the elementary level, so each one of them has 1 teacher and 2 assistants. And then I have 1 class at the
We had a lot of severe disabilities come in over the summer too.
It's crazy. It's just crazy how it's increasing.
Oh, did I lose you, Randy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes. I got a notification that my internet was unstable.
Well, ours is a little slow today, and our county internet is not usually slow, but we're having a little difficulty today too. I don't know if it's a state problem or if it's a local problem.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so 6C or 6A, B, and C.
So pre-K regular.
You know, I wonder, for those targets, I wonder if our pre-K teachers really don't know which one to pick.
Maybe so.
Yeah, so, you know, which, I don't know, which environment to pick. So I wonder if that has a bearing. I don't know, because ultimately, how does it matter?
Right. I mean, I wonder, so when, to get that indicator 6A, they are filling out information, is that right?
Well, in my mind, is that not the LRE code on the IEPs?
Okay. You know what's happening for, we're gonna have a preschool IEP training in October.
Yeah.
Because we are, we were examining IEPs that are going into kindergarten, and there's a lot of things left off. Lots and
Yeah.
lots of stuff left off there. That may
We
be
have
right.
we have several new preschool teachers this year, so we had just a get together on half a day earlier before school started, and that was real helpful. But we
Yeah.
didn't, get down to the, nitty gritty.
Yeah.
There it goes. Mine's supposed to be really slow today.
But I think probably our teachers don't know which LRE code to select, so that may have a bearing there, if in fact that's what it is.
Yeah, that could definitely be that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's okay.
So
Hey,
parent
Christie,
involvement, yeah,
we are coming back together.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with our Zoom group then. Let's let you all go first. Let's all come together. And the Zoom group is gonna share anything that they notice or wonder. Or maybe one thing you noticed or wondered. How about that? Did you unmute them?
Okay, so Randy, help me out here.
Okay. All right. I was muted. Yeah. Okay. So one thing that we noticed, our graduation rate, we're doing really great with graduation rate across the region.
Yes.
Are you
We were talking about the indicator 6, and we wondered if maybe our preschool teachers didn't know exactly which LRE code to select. Maybe further training needs to be had on which one to select on the IEP.
So raise your hand in here if you had that same wondering. So at least half the room has that same wondering, Christy and Randy and Jamie and whoever else is on there. And just so you know, and I've got the date in the direct connection, I can look it up and see what the date is, but April McNaughton and Nancy Lovett, and I'm just really helping to facilitate, but there's gonna be a session coming up here, I think it's in September, for preschool coordinators, for us to talk about indicators 6, 7, and 12. And that's one of the things that's gonna be on the agenda, is kind of making sure and calibrating that to make sure that everybody does know how to code. Is it a coding issue, or somebody in our group said, is it that Breck is more honest than other co-ops issue? I don't know, but we will discover all that together. So if you would like to come to that session, we'd love to have you.
Indiana license plate. Anyone in here have an Indiana license plate and a white Sonata? Okay, would you mind to move your car? I'm not sure where.
Just move it where you see other cars parked. I mean, I don't mean that in a Marla way, but
Yeah, over on the side.
away from the building, because they're putting some rock down or something. Yeah,
And away from the front.
and away from the front, Laurie. Thank you. Okay,
So back to that, so they're writing on IEPs now, what do you all recommend we put in there? Recommendation?
What's the major question, the major issue with, you're talking about with LRE?
yes. It's the special separate class versus regular class.
You're talking, I know my table group over there talked about you're having more kids with IEPs than non-IEPs.
Yes, so then you're a separate class.
It is what it is. I mean, you know what I'm
It's not the same thing, because I know that we have to report that you've got 50% or more turns that into a special ed class, but it doesn't say it's a separate class. I think those are two separate things.
Yeah, and I told him, when I was took, was it the preschool performance report last year, is that the one where you put? If I had not read carefully, and I hope I answered it accurately, because I thought I'm gonna be over as well, but it was like you took your total numbers, it wasn't just per class.
Yes.
But when I looked at the total, I was not.
Nancy Lovett, are you on by any chance still?
I am on.
Can you weigh in on this whole issue of the separate class versus special ed class? issue?
Not as well. I was listening, but what I was gonna say, in March, you determine if your program, your overall program is gonna be a regular program or a special program. So you do that on GMAP in March about your whole program. Then, so your program is, and that's, you think about the whole program versus, you know, the 50%. But then when you've already said your program's gonna be a regular program. So then when you start adding children to the programs and things like that, it's not a special class unless, if you have said it's gonna be regular, unless you have 75% of your children with IEPs. And I think a lot of people don't use that percentage, Kelly. I think they're really mixed up and don't use that. I think they still think the 50, I think they still think the 50%, and the 50% is when you're thinking about if you're going to call it regular or special.
So that's overall.
But when you're going.
Yes, that's the overall, but I couldn't hear her other question.
When you're going to make a student IEP though, and you're checking that box, that's where they're getting that separate class population. So there's that many people in our region that are saying individual kids, because it's not, those are two separate things. And so, to me, I wonder if people are thinking, wait a minute, I guess I am a separate class because I'm 50%, which is not.
We were told all of our codes are gonna be 3C because we're over 50% for the whole program. So I can tell you, Hardin County, every preschool IP says 3C. So we may be.
I'm talking to KDE about that, because
Yeah.
that apples is.
Right.
Because in my mind, you've got a separate classroom, they are like, to me, I'm picturing this classroom almost like an EBD unit or an autism classroom of preschool age kids. And preschool should be that's intervention, that setting is for all kids to be separate.
And
I'm
then,
on a soapbox, and I'm on my.
yeah, but am I looking at something different? Because like, we started where our speech takes place in the preschool classroom. We don't pull those kids out. So, you know, more than 80% of their services are taking place in a preschool classroom.
But they still have IEPs and that.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what we said, we're looking at different apples and oranges.
All right, so we're not gonna solve the problem today. Maybe we're gonna say something else.
It's definitely dependent on the number of children in the program with IEPs, not really whether the services are, you know, in terms of this determination, whether the services are provided in the classroom or not. It's strictly dependent, and I think I heard Hardin County say this, in terms of the number of children with IEPs.
Yeah, well, that is really is weird.
When
But the 50% and the 70% sometimes really do mix people up. And when they get over, you know, if they've said their program in March is going to be regular, and then they get over 50% of their kids with IEPs, they change it and put, you know, the special class, and it's not unless it goes to 75%. So I think people are really mixed up on that.
So Jessica says, so if you're, say you're 52% in March, Nancy, then you're a special program, right?
That's correct.
And then everybody is a 3C?
I didn't hear that part, Kelly.
Every student is automatically coded as a 3C.
They're, those kids with their IP, they're in the special class.
Even if the class is less than.
Yeah, even if the class is less than 75%.
That's where the issues have happened, Kelly, that people aren't aware of that. And that's where I think when people make that determination in March, they're talking about overall program.
Right.
And then when you're looking at the IEP and stuff and looking at the placement, you're looking at, the individual program within that. So the special ed, the preschool special ed data standards, I think are what we're really going to need to look at closely, because whoever said that, I think there is a training issue there.
This is Cynthia from Marion County, and I agree we need to reference the standards. I also wonder, because our wonderings are correct, do we truly know how to complete this portion on the different, whether it be the IEP or the GMAT, whatever it is? I wonder if, when we have our dose institute in a couple of weeks, if this is something that could be addressed by one of those team members, even in writing, at that time.
Nice to do, yeah. If you send me an email, I'll be happy to do it. Or maybe Nancy, maybe that's something that the RTC could request. Could you do that?
Yes, I'll be glad to. And I do think it's a huge issue. And I knew you all were going to say that when I saw what you had on the agenda and everything, because I think across the state, it's a huge issue that people misunderstand that.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, you're gonna follow up with the OSEAL and ask them to make sure that's addressed at the Dose Institute.
I definitely will.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we could probably talk about that for a while longer, but why don't we just keep going around and see if there's any other, that was probably a hot wondering or noticing of everybody, but what are the other things? Maybe just one, no more than two things you had on your list. So we'll go to Pete's group now.
The parental involvement was higher from the survey, and we wondered if that's because Kelly sent an email, which I loved. That was a push. I sent it out to teachers. Okay, let's be Union County. Let's get, the percentage higher.
So I will say that our region has been actively working on that for several years, and every year we've gotten better, and it's actually last year's data, so I expect the next one to come out, because we had so many more districts that have been improved this year. I think almost 100% of our districts have a higher percentage of parents completing this year than they did last year, so y'all done a phenomenal job. I will also credit, when we had a meeting, Susan and some other people shared some strategies that they were using. We got some from Henderson County, and Susan shared some about how do you get more parents to take that, and I think that's really helped everybody. So that was just great teamwork. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, so the notices were preschool, and then also many of them, we noticed that, as a region, we're doing pretty well. Many things were within just a couple of points or we were close, so that we thought that was good. And then also fourth grade reading seemed low. And then by contrast, eighth grade reading was higher than fourth grade. So we thought that was interesting, stood out. And one thing was a couple of wonders, where there were, it was a low percentage, like one of the goal was maybe like a 17 or 18 or something %, and we were just below that. How do we gauge that as good or bad, or how far away? Does that make sense?
It's still really low.
Yeah, it was really low. And then of course the preschool.
Yeah, definitely as a region, they still have so much work to do around the proficiency rates in general, for sure.
Most of the things we have on our notice and wonder have already been discussed. I'm not going to rehash that. But we did have like the 14A, B, and C not meeting that higher ed. Kind of what other kind of opportunities can we have in programs to get our students in higher ed or employed after graduation? And she mentioned Project Surge, you kind of use that, but if you live kind of in a place that like where we are, we're small, we don't really have a lot of industry, we don't have a lot of colleges, things for that, so.
Good one. Not good data, but yeah.
Yeah, ditto is what everybody else said, but one of the things we found interesting on the preschool indicators, all of the directors here, we all have different program setups. You know, 5-day week, 4-day week, half a day, full day, dismiss at noon, dismiss at 2. And we just kind of wondered if there was ever, like research done on what programs are outperforming, like with the scheduling and the format. Like is one better than another? That's kind of where we kind of got off on that and stayed on that pretty much.
That's interesting. Maybe we can build into that a little bit. All right.
I don't think we have anything that has not already been
Okay.
covered, if not for a few times, but we did talk about just wondering, just like throughout Gret, how many preschools are offering like a tuition option versus just having the DD or IEP and income eligibility and how that plays out. And honestly, I'm not so sure that our numbers aren't gonna get worse instead of better if we accurate. I think some of our schools are not accurately coding kids as 3C when they might be. Gotcha.
So we could certainly do like a Google survey and then add that data in there. That could be one about, we could collect some journal data about how many days you have your program. And then, what did you just say, Rachel? Just triggered me here to think about.
At the tuition.
Oh, and then the tuition part, because, that came up for, I can't remember what district it was, but there was a little hubbub about their application and, the tuition and something about being discriminatory and all kinds of crazy
Thanks,
things.
Kelly. There was one more thing I just looked
Yes.
at, but it was about the dropout, like the dropout, also the dropout rate looked good, but that there was at least some rumblings here that maybe that data is not entirely accurate either, and there's some workarounds for some of those things.
We know that there are workarounds through the DPP. If you wear that hat, shame on you if you have workarounds for dropouts.
This is from the data standards. Of course, we know March 1st, the district's going to determine, and it's based on answering 2 questions. So is the early childhood program designed for typically developing same-age peers? Are the majority of the children aged 3 through 5 currently enrolled in the preschool program without IEPs? If you can answer yes to both questions, the program is defined as regular early childhood program until March 1 of the following year.
That's an important piece.
Yes, so then after you make that determination, your LRE settings are based on that program determination. Whatever is in effect on the date of the ARC. So districts that have determined their preschool program is a regular program, the LRE settings for the children aged 3 through 5 will typically be the 3A1, 3A2, or 3B1, 3B2. If you've determined that your program is a special ed program, the LRE settings will be either 3S, which is a separate class, 3U, separate school, or 3F, residential facility. Then the exception is if you determined your program is regular, but a child was placed in a classroom for the majority of their day where 75% or more of the children are children with IEPs, then the LRE setting for that child will be 3S, a separate class.
For that child.
For that child.
Gotcha.
And this is from the data standard that is posted on KDE.
Okay, so that was a good synopsis, and then again, anybody who comes to that day, we can kind of delve into that, you can kind of actually look at your data and we can kind of delve into that together. Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
All right, who's the spokesperson here in the blue group?
A lot of ours is about preschool too. We did have a question about
high school, why the participation for our district was so much lower than the state target. Like, why are more of our high schoolers not taking the test, and is maybe attendance more of an issue in our district than some of the other?
So I can tell you, I think I know the answer to that one. So that is an anomaly in the Breck region data, which I didn't show the historical data. And the target stays the same. It doesn't really shift a lot, the state target, but that was part of the COVID testing year. And so most regions' participation rate tanked. The year before that, our participation rates were near 100%. They were over the state average. So I think it was a one-year anomaly for every region, but our region for sure. So I think that's what the answer is. I think it had to do with kids still being on virtual and just refusing to show up for testing and that kind of thing during the testing cycle, I think. Okay, that was great. Awesome. Thank you all. Let's go back to our seats and make sure that you give your stars and your, oh, I thought y'all were not ready. Wait a minute. Sorry. I thought I started this turn. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Lynn. Not mean to miss you.
Well, after much heated discussion, debate, back and forth, I was honored to be chosen. One of them has been covered. We did notice we did not meet in their transition, had some conversation about that. The target area is not met in academics. Obviously COVID is still living over, so the effects of that. But, we're looking at 2021 data, and not everyone had to participate. So, I mean, it's such a limited amount to put a lot of stock in that data. Looking forward to seeing this data, and I would encourage the conversation. We have to go back and look at your progress data for your what I found in our district last year from STAR data and other is once we got into in-person instruction, students really started gathering steam and getting back to where they were and making good progress. So I think I praise our teachers and staff for all they done, and I know you have a hard working people in all your districts. So it's got a lot to be proud of. I'm encouraged moving forward just to get to regular instruction and those things. But look at your progress data. We'll get this data. I think we can all set some targets and set some things. Some other things we noticed is some of the state targets seem to be fairly low. So I mean, I think those need some adjusting, but I think
they just adjusted them downward. They had on that these really high rates, and they thought at the state level that they weren't gonna look good, so they have shifted them down. They lowered their expectations.
Just from that in our district, some years we meet everything, some years we're down somewhere behind, but look at your staff, look at your students, set your own goals, set goals, and they'll usually all the time be higher than what the state wants. But once again, I was proud to be chosen spokesperson. The next election, I promise to do everything I said I'll do, and the next time I have a spokesperson vote, I hope.
The way to advocate for the purple group, say, we didn't get to talk. Hey, did you know that Lynn is a 5-time grandfather as of last week, and he has his first grandson? Oh, I know. So cute. Here. Okay.
Ooh. It's either cold or humid in here, and I'm sorry, I know. Okay.
Let's go back into the very exciting topic of corrective action processes. Definitely get this in before lunch, because after lunch is going to be a real hard topic, right? Again, because all of you have not had a desk audit before, which sounds crazy to those of you who get them like on the regular. It's a process that, it's not always understood, and some of the correspondence that comes out doesn't always help you understand how the process works. So you will get a notification letter. It will go to you and your superintendent. several people at KDE are copied, and then they will also copy your co-op director on it. So on those notification letters, I usually get that copy as well, except on the rare occasion that they inadvertently send it to somebody else's co-op director. And sometimes I get other people, so we just share them back with everybody. But anyway, so you will get that, and then, you will get an email, that has SSID numbers that are for students that are being audited. And I think that just comes to the director only. Is that correct? Somebody got there? The superintendent also gets the SSID letter too? Okay, I wasn't sure about that. We don't get that one. And we don't need them. We don't need to know anything about the SSID numbers. Okay. So once you get that letter, it's dated at the top, you have 2 weeks from the date of that letter. So those of you who just got desk audits on August 15th, then you have 2 weeks, to provide KDE with any requested information. I will say that a few years ago, they did try to start taking some of the burden off of districts by volunteering to pull that data for you. But you do need to go in and make sure that anything that they're going to look at is actually in Infinite Campus, because sometimes you don't have those things in there, and they're going to give you a compliance score based on what they can see in Infinite Campus. I will say also, they don't always know where to look in Infinite Campus, and it's just in what it is. And so sometimes they'll say that you didn't have something when it was actually in there the whole time. So you can fix that later. Anyway, you're gonna get this, 2-week period to get them any information. So you can upload anything that you need to send them. And there's certain things I think you have to upload every time, no matter what. And then approximately 4 to 6 weeks after that, so for August 15th and August 29th is when you have to have that in. Approximately 4 to 6 weeks after August 29th, then you will receive what's called a preliminary notification letter. Okay, it's called preliminary because it's not the final determination of your status. It's the preliminary notification of your status. You will get a percentage of compliant folders listed in your report. And then it'll say, it's like a little chart, and then it will tell you whether you are or are not cited, for student-specific non-compliance. And they don't say this anywhere, I don't think. That means one folder is incorrect out of the ones that they have reviewed. One folder means student-specific. If it's 2 or more folders, that's what they call systemic, and then that is what triggers you getting a corrective action. Now, they call both of those a corrective action, but for the one student, all you have to do is fix the folders and then do the comparison folders later, and you're done. But if you have 2 or more, you have to have training somewhere in there. There's a training component added, so that's what makes it feel like a true cap, because you have the training component. So also then after that, when you get the preliminary, you get 2 weeks from that date to provide any additional documentation for consideration. And then they issue their final report about a week after that. And once they've issued the final report, they're not going to change anything in it. So that period leading up to that final report is when you can share any additional information. You can also, and this is literally your decision, whether you want to do this or not. But you can also try to correct folders in between anytime in this period. So now that you know these SSID numbers, you have really until the final report is issued, or before you have to actually give them the rest of that information at the preliminary report time, to have an ARC correct that folder and then submit that as evidence. And what that sometimes will do for you is prevent you from having to have a training. You may or may not want to do that. There's kind of pros and cons to that.
Well, I had a question about that, because ours specifically says then from the 21-22 school year and the 20-21 school year. So if we did it now, it was 22-23. I mean, because that was my thing, was let's get ARC scheduled. But I didn't know that would matter since they specifically asked for.
So yours is indicator 13. Yeah. All I can tell you is that I know last year, I know at least one director had ARCs, corrected what was in there, submitted that, and then they got 100% at the final report.
Okay.
I know people have done that. So, and I got an email, I was actually trying to look for it, but I couldn't find it, where Greta put in writing that you can do that. So I think I sent that out. Yeah.
I just didn't know with the school year, like the timing of the school year change.
I think that's how they always do that though, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I have not heard that any of that has changed anything different. So, yes, Craig.
You could definitely provide evidence that you're working on it.
What does she mean by that? Ask her. What do you mean by that, Kristen?
I just mean that, to provide evidence during the preliminary report information, because like you just said, sometimes that whoever you're working with at KDE will say, oh yeah, that's what I needed. So, maybe further information is not needed, or it's less further information that's needed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so if it's a timeline, if you're an indicator 11 and you're out of timeline, you can't actually fix it. Like now we're under 60 days, but if you have already met and discussed that student and now that student has either been found eligible or not, but you had that ARC to discuss it and you show that evidence, then that usually takes them off of your list of people that were that makes you non-compliant, which is kind of weird because you can't really fix, that's not a compliance you can fix. But if you already had the ARC about it. So, somebody called me the other day and they were like, I think most of our folders are gonna have an error. Is it worth it to have all these ARCs and try to fix them in this 2-week window? Or it's really more than 2 weeks, but I said, that's just up to you. That's a lot of work. That's what you have to decide as it goes, whether you want to try to, front load and get ahead of it. But another thing that, and several of you have come to me before and said, I don't remind my teacher if we get a CAP, because I've been trying to tell my teachers about X issue for a long time and they don't listen to me. And so this will be a more official way for us to get their attention. So this director, when I said, this director is gonna let it go and just let the chips fall where they may. And if there's corrective action, this director seeing that as a good thing because this is probably something that needs to happen. So there's a lot of reasons that you might go ahead and let it go and just see what happens. Or there might be reasons that, last year somebody had 2 folders and it was one little thing that was wrong with the same error in both folders. It was a very easy fix. So they were like, we're going to try to have these ARC meetings within that time period and upload that. And they got into the compliant. So they already knew this was a very specific issue. It wasn't a widespread, I really do think we need training in our district. And it saves us from having to pull people out of their classrooms to have a training over something that they didn't really feel like they needed a training for. Use your judgment on that. You know whether you need to have some training or not. So that's that.
Helen, yeah, but I totally agree. Now, we try to have ours correct, but I agree with the director that said, let it go. I've been telling them, but I'd also have in mind the opportunity that they had to go to training for indicator 13.
Yeah.
I would show KDE, I've done my part. This is, insubordination on their part if they're not.
That's a good, so if you didn't hear that on Zoom, good tip from Joni is making sure that you're letting KDE know all the opportunities that your staff have had to get training that you've encouraged and that you've done in your own district so that it doesn't kind of blow back on you as a director. Very good. Good idea. I never even thought about that one, Joni. A good one. Okay.
Yeah, so smart. Okay, so then here's the last bit, then we're gonna go to lunch. So KDE copies the co-op director on the notification letter and the preliminary report and the final report. Okay, so what does that mean? That means I know whether you have a CAP or not. And your co-op is supposed to be your training provider. You can go outside, you can hire somebody to come in, wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if you wanted to have somebody else come and do a training. But in general, the co-ops are supposed to be those training providers. But where KDE last year started doing something different is that they have stopped in, they cut the co-op off of all communication after the final letter. So I don't know when you get your CAP template, so I can't come back around, especially those of you that are new. I'll always say, I can come to your district and help you. If it's your first one ever, I'll come and sit down with you and help you do your, fill out your CAP template. We're all happy to do that, but if I don't know, I can't volunteer to help. I don't know anymore. I don't know why they don't include us on those anymore. They have some rationale that they try to explain that I don't understand it because it's not a secret that you have a CAP and that I know you have a CAP.
And that's my job. Our job is to help you navigate that corrective action. So what has happened in this bit of time is that sometimes you all, especially people who've already had them before, were just like, well, I'll just fill that out and send it in. Couple of problems with that. One is sometimes you all have been putting dates on there that Greca's gonna come and do your training, but you haven't communicated with us, and then we don't actually have that date available. So that's causing a lot of problems. Not a lot, but it has caused some problems in those instances. And the other thing is, and please listen to this part, you create more work for yourself the more you put on that CAP template, okay? If you need more training than what you're required to have for your CAP, we will gladly provide it. All you have to do is say, I know that you're only coming in to do this part of indicator 13, but would you also, while you're here, talk about this other portion of the IEP? And Katrina and I will say, absolutely, we will help you with that. But don't put it on your CAP template. You want to know why? Because when they do comparison folders, they're going to go check everything you put on that CAP template. So even if that's what you were originally cited for, you might get recited because it's something that you added that you wanted as extra training for your district. Only put what you have to train on that template. That's all you want to put on there. That doesn't mean you can't have extra. Like I said, we will gladly support you with whatever you need. But the more you put on there, the more they're going to monitor you. So some of you have caused problems for yourselves by putting extra stuff on that. And again, it's just pull us in, forward it to us, or email them and say, please include Kelly Davis on all the emails so that she can make sure, I want her to be in the loop of communication. I don't care how you do it, but it just makes it harder for you and us if we don't know what you're putting in that template and what dates you're wanting for your training and all of that. So just if we work together, it'll be more smooth for everybody. Okay, so that's all of that. I think that's what I said on those slides there.
Okay.
I want to talk to everybody about the documentation for emergency and probationary certified teachers. Because I've completely changed the process this year, and there's a reason for this. So the reason, I mentioned this in the spring, but it was April, and I know everybody's trying to get through with school, and we were having retirement celebrations and all the things. But last year, I don't remember which district it was, but last year at some point, somebody, and this is really weird, I know it was one of our male curriculum special ed. I don't know why I know this is the guy. Anyway, one of the guys emailed me and said, had sent me the form that you sent at the very beginning called the survey form, where you're saying this person has either emergency or probationary certification, and you fill out the 2-page form and their areas of, emphasis and whatever. Okay. So had sent that in to me, and then about a month or two later, emailed me and said, I guess you can take whatever this guy's name is off of your list because he just passed his practice.
That was me.
Okay, well, I know somebody. And I said, okay, well, great, but he has to do all these documentation hours because that's what the regulation said, that you have to do 20, I don't know who's probationary or emergency.
Yes.
One of those, whatever your required number of hours. And Kenny said, well, no, but I think he already submitted to get his certificate. So I kind of start monitoring. Sure enough, a few weeks later, this teacher in Russellville has gone from being either probationary or emergency certified to regular has a certification. He didn't need those hours, not one of those hours. So I was like, well, that's something I had suspected for a while, but now I have hard proof that their system is completely messed up. So I saw Byron Darnall here at Greg. He was here for a board meeting and he's over at UPSB. I said, hey Byron, I want to talk to you about this little regulation here. And I said, our districts are having to send teachers to the CEC conference. Not that the CEC conference isn't great, but prior to COVID and all this extra money, that's a financial challenge for some districts. It's a barrier, and that they're required to get these 6 hours, and then they have to be trained for 12 hours, and they have to have sometimes, look at all these things that districts are required to do, and nobody up there is monitoring it. You're not monitoring it, and OSIL's not monitoring it. No one is looking at this. So you're requiring districts to do a lot of work and you're requiring co-ops to do a lot of work because we're managing all the freaking paperwork for all of that. And it takes a lot. I love you all. It's like herding cats sometimes. We get each other tongue on things. And you know, it's like, send me your form, please. I'll need your form. Okay, it was due May 15th and it's May 30th and, you know. And I know, and I'm not, I'm only teasing you all, but it is, but like, if no one's looking at it, why are we all spending our time doing that, right? So I promise, and I've got this ready. I'm not managing the forms anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm managing one Google form from now on. And I'm gonna let you all keep your folder with you probably keep those papers anyway. When you get them, all the little papers filled out, you're probably making a copy for me and saving one for yourself. Or having your teacher do it. You all just set those little, just like when you do for waivers, right? Like you have to keep that documentation. You keep the documentation. And then at the end of the year, you can go to this Google form and you can fill it out. And then because all I ever turn into KDE is a list of people and they've met the requirements. That's all I do. What is their type of certification? Did they meet the requirements? Yes or no? I've only turned in 2 no's the whole time I've been here. And it doesn't make any sense for us, and for me to, go, well, your person only got 3 hours at the CEC conference. Like, I don't like to be the police of those hours. That's not an appropriate role for me anyway. So here's what we're doing. There we go. Oops. Okay. I'm phasing it out. I want you to maintain your forms locally and then complete a Google form. So here's the deal, the regulation is still the same. If your district has no emergency or probationary certified teachers, you can go ahead and complete that form by October 15th, which we're gonna look at in a minute. That's the one that you'll go ahead and print it. I'm gonna assume you're gonna do all this too. All right, and I'm never gonna ask you about it again. But you're gonna print that form off, you're gonna sign your name on it and date it, and you're gonna get your superintendent to sign his or her name on it and date it. And you're gonna stick it somewhere where you know that I've got this on file. I had it signed by my superintendent myself by October 15th. We do not employ any emergency or probationary certified teachers. Okay. If you have any, 1 or more, you're gonna fill out this Google form, 1 for each teacher. Okay, it's really easy. We're gonna look at it in a minute. It's gonna tell you everything that you're saying. I assert, I affirm that we did these things. And then I will have it on a Google sheet, and then I can just send that on to KDE, and it's gonna be easier for everybody. You don't have to send it to me. I don't have to bother you with it. All I have to do is remind you to get your form done. If you have any certified teachers, and I'm gonna assume that if you don't fill out something by October 15th that says you don't have any, then I'm gonna be needing to send you reminders to get all your forms completed and get your Google form completed by May 15th. On the deadline, right? So I'll just keep sending you those reminder emails until I see something populated in the Google sheet. Okay, so let's review the form. I'm so excited about this. This is gonna be a win-win for everyone. I know, I'm sorry. Several of you did, and I'm gonna find a prize for you all because you all were so good. You did. Okay. So, again, I put the directions in here again, if you do have them, when to fill it out by, okay? If you do not have them, when you fill it out by. All right, so you're gonna put your, this is fine. So you put your email in, your first name, your last name, you get a drop down for your district. Okay, and then you're gonna pick which one. I'm completing this form to certify requirements have been met for the following. Okay, no, doesn't make sense. I'm just realizing that. It should say, I don't have any. Okay, I'll fix that. Sorry about that. Okay. You know how sometimes your brain doesn't always compute things right. So you're gonna pick either this person's emergency certified, their probationary certified is their first year. That means they have to do all those training hours, or they're probationary certified not first year, which I don't know why, but you have to fill out the survey form only for a not first year probationary certified, and then you're done. Like, that's all you have to do. Okay. And where it says no, it will say
I don't have any or whatever. I'll figure out something to put in there. We do not employ any emergency or certified or probationary certified teachers. Okay. So then this is going to go to the appropriate section for you. Okay. Depending on what you click. So if you click not first year, it's going to go right here. What's the last name of the teacher? What's the first name of the teacher? And then you're just going to assert by clicking yes. I have a completed emergency probationary teacher survey form on file for this teacher. And I've even put the link in there for you so you know what form that is you have to fill out. And then you are good to go. Okay. Click yes, and then you're going to click submit, and then you are done with that teacher. All right. If you pick, they are emergency certified or probationary first year certified, it's going to go to this section. Last name, first name. I have completed the survey form. Yes. I have a completed Kentucky CEC documentation form on file showing the teacher received 6 hours of professional development at Kentucky CEC conference related to his or her area of emergency or probationary certification. And here's also the form for you if you need it to download it. And you're going to click yes. Then you're going to go to this one. I have a completed form, flexible in-service form on file for this teacher, showing the teacher received 12 hours of professional development from GREC or approved by GREC related to his or her area of emergency probationary certification, because that's what the reg says you have to do. And then there's the link to the flexible in-service form. Okay, if the teacher is emergency certified, I have completed the flexible in-service form, or I have one on file, showing the teacher received 6 hours of professional development in my district related to his or her area of emergency certification. Yes, the teacher is emergency certified and has completed the PD hours. Not applicable. The teacher is probationary certified and does not need the additional hours. Okay. And then the last section is that if you selected what says no up here right now, but I don't have any emergency or probationary teachers, it's going to go to right here. District's not employing documentation. I certify that my district has not employed any emergency or probationary teachers this school year. And I have a form on file in my district signed by the DOS and the superintendent. Yes. And then once you've completed the right section, you're going to click submit. I will get that information in a Google sheet and put it. It's gonna be good. I'm really excited because I'm not shoving your papers around this year. Not that I would mind, but nobody's looking at them. So just know, I've been doing this for 8 years. No one has ever asked me for one form. I'm pretty sure that people that I have submitted and no one that didn't meet their training hours, I got certified anyway, based on what I know from Kenny's teacher. If they pass their practice, that's really all that matters. So I'm just telling you to do with that what you want. I'm telling you that you are supposed to follow the regulations. I'm encouraging you to keep all your documents on file, and I'm going to give all my gentle, friendly reminders to get your forms filled out by the appropriate date, and then we'll be done. Yes.
And you want this done by, send it to me by.
May 15th is the regulatory deadline, which we most always end up going over and ruin the winners. It's like people forget and May 15th is kind of a crazy time, but yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll let.
We'll share this, we have. Okay, that was gonna be my question.
Is the link,
Yeah, we don't want to fill this out till it's all done.
Correct.
We might need the forms as we go along,
yes,
but the forms are listed in your resources in the newsletter.
they are. The forms are listed in the resources, in the newsletter, and they'll be on the monthly dose agenda as well in that last section. So you can find them there, you can find them in the form if you need them. Getting them off the other site would be more convenient for you probably, but I just thought when you get in here to fill out the form, if you want to make sure you got the right form, and you need to click on the link to make sure it was the correct form, you could do that. Yes, ma'am.
You linked it as edit access, and so people are typing in over your questions and putting their names on.
Oh, good.
So now question, like, after email, it says Rhonda, and the next question, it says Finley. So instead of it being fill out, we're ready.
You need to beaver you.
Hey.
Yep.
That's the talk is sent after you put your information in.
Last edit was made 3 minutes ago.
See, it doesn't say Rhonda. It's Rhonda Lockwood.
Can I undo?
You can restore to original.
Where is that? In the Google form. Is it in settings?
Just push undo.
I tried that. All right. Get yourself out of there, Rhonda.
Wait, she can go back, this is the back.
Who? Yeah.
I'm rooting, I'm rooting for you, girl.
That's okay. If we can't fix it now, I'll fix it later before. I will make sure that the actual one that you can fill out is available to you, and I will fix the form and then limit the access again. So that's the one thing about shared drives that I find a little frustrating, is that when you create something, then everybody kind of can get in there, but I like having the shared drive because then also you can always get in there. So I'll fix that. But thank you, Jessica, for letting me know. And for sharing a shout out to our friends. Okay. Any questions about that? And are we okay with that as a process? Yes, Sandy.
Should we be doing this for preschool teachers since they serve the 3-year-olds? They serve both roles, but it's just across the spectrum.
It does, and the only reason I know that is because a few years ago, that came up as a question and I wasn't sure of the answer and we had to get that answer. So it only applies, yes, it does not apply to preschool. They have their own process that has nothing to do with having to get all
So
the
if you got option
papers.
6 preschool, it does not apply.
Option 6 doesn't apply to no option 6 at all. This is only if they're probationary or certified. So if they're provisional certification, temporary provisional does not apply. It's only if they're probationary or emergency certified. Yeah, so that's another thing that a lot of times when you all send me those first forms, what they call the survey form, I always go look at EPSD, and then sometimes I email you back and say, this person's not actually probationary certified, they're actually temporary provisional, you have to do stuff. So, yes. So whatever you call them, option 6, MAT, whatever, you don't have to do it for them. It's not part of their regulation.
For preschool.
And not for preschool either. You don't have to do it for preschool. If you read the regulations, it's pretty clear. I mean, I can show the regulations, you can look at that, but you don't have to do it for preschool. Or again, not temporary provisional either. Okay. This may be a first, we may not get through our whole agenda today. That's okay. We'll just hold it over if we don't. Okay. This year at a glance, see if I've already got it open or not. No, not open like that. So I met with, like a little advisory group of directors back in the spring, and we sort of brainstormed what would be some relevant monthly topics that would be useful for the whole group to kind of review together. So I created this year at a glance document. I'm not going to read through it all today, but you can click on that. If you have suggestions about things that you think should be added to this monthly list, let me know. We can add anything. This is just a representative group of about 6 or 7 directors. Can you let Laura Miller in, Grace? She may be here for April too. So let me know. Anyway, we're going to try to get through these different topics every month to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as the expectations for some of these different kind of regulatory type things.
And also things that just help you as a director, especially if you're a new director. This is the time you need to do this. Here's a calendar. Here's how I fill out this report. Here's how we do waivers. Here's how we do these different things. Because it just helps to know what other people are doing in their districts. So that's that. All right. All right, I think some of this will go pretty quickly. I'm going to this August focus areas. So Katrinka, you want to chat about IEP training?
Yes, there's space for the shorts. Monday, the 22nd, Sunday, the 25th. There's a link there, once send somebody at the last minute. September is full, go ahead and have them sign up if you need those dates. We'll see how many we can add, and then we'll get having them in training. It may have to be virtual just because space is going to be here.
All right.
Feel free to email me your questions.
So on, oh, go ahead.
September virtual or it'll be. No, it'll be in person. But like there's an extra. If there's, yeah, I'm already open the course of 7 more people, and I'm just gonna check my space. But if I have everybody on, I'll go through this, then to the next training first.
Thank you. Before we go on to literacy updates, I'm gonna let April or Laura, I think I see Laura on there, to give the RTC update for Simpson County.
Hey, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I don't have a large update. I won't take up much of your agenda. Our trainings are on our website. The biggest one that's coming up, I believe everybody has sent in a number of how many they project will be participating, but that's September 9th with the National NCPMI trainer for pyramid model for PBIs for preschool. So that's coming up and we're super excited about that one. Today's our new teacher training, and then we've got some things coming up. So we have our new standards, and after that, I know everybody has gone through the wonderful new child outcome summary training. We are going to do a follow-up for that after the new standards training. It doesn't have to be a sign up for that. The link to that is on our website. So it's just a Google Meet link. And if you need to attend that or want to attend that just for a follow-up or to ask questions, and hopefully we can get answers to, you can join that as well. So that's the biggest update. We're sending out a newsletter. We already sent out our August one and are working on the September. So that's about all I have.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions for Laura? All right. Have Bobby come up and talk about a couple of little literacy things. Do I need to click on the Wilson reading link, or is it in the slide deck?
I put a picture of it in the slide deck.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So I want to make sure that we don't have it there. There we go. So some of you may remember in the spring, we talked about having Wilson Reading come for our middle and high school teachers that have students with fluency, phonics, phonological awareness, the whole gambit of needs, and we've had a difficult time meeting their needs. After much pushback, I had to get on my big girl panties and tell someone they weren't being nice to us because they were getting us hoop after hoop to jump through. Kelly and I finally found someone that would be willing to train us in our Wilson systems. It is October 24th through 26th. You'll notice on here, well, maybe you won't notice. There is a link that I need you guys, if you want to send teachers.
It's on the agenda.
Yes, it's on the agenda. You'll notice on the
Right
agenda,
here.
there's a Wilson reading link. And I really do need you to fill out, oops, that's the PD one.
Oh, sorry.
You can leave that up, we'll go to that next,
Click on the Wilson reading.
please.
There we go.
You'll notice that it says that our cooperative cost estimation is $600 per teacher. And that means that we are covering the cost of the teachers being trained as well as the teacher kits. which is a cost of $320-ish alone. We do ask that when you make this commitment, we are excited and we want as many teachers trained as need to be trained. And we are purchasing the kits for the teachers, but we do ask that you implement the program this year and at least next year. And if for some reason you won't be implementing in the future, that we receive our kits back when we're purchasing those. But they get to keep the training since they're going to have their 3 days back. I can't take that away. But right now, and we will find out once the trainer comes for sure how much the materials cost is. We're assuming the initial kickoff cost might be about $113 per student kit, but we're not exactly sure what that entails. Because we may be able to find some of the books in your library, or maybe this is the purchase of the classroom set of books. Wilson suggests 15 to 18, I think at most, students in the classroom, and I think ideally 12. And we do know that this is for our very intensive students, our students with disabilities, and tier 3, where we know that maybe that gap wasn't as large, but we know they need that phonics fluency, phonological awareness support there with vocabulary. It won't be a very heavy burden for you guys this year if you choose to come in now. We do have a capacity of 35. And we are sharing this with the state. Right now, I know of maybe 5 teachers that have already decided across the state that they're interested. So we still have quite a few spots available. I would ask that since this is a closed registration, that you fill out this link for me so that I can specifically send to those districts that I know are interested in making sure that this happens in your building. And by this, I mean the actual instruction.
And Bobby, if somebody's already contacted you and you've already connected with them, do they need to fill
No,
this out
they do,
again?
because
They do.
This is specific teachers, because this is going to be
Okay.
asking your specific teachers, because I'm making a list separately so that we don't go over, since we're doing it across the state. You will still register your teachers, but I'll make sure to be in direct contact with you. I just want to make sure that I have an idea of the number of teachers, including special ed and interventionists. If you want to send a coach, that kind of.
Okay.
So any questions about Wilson? I know that there are 4.
So this is 6 to 12, I thought it started.
We're only doing 6 through 12.
You're just targeting.
Yes. The program itself says it will do 2nd and above, but we have so many interventions that meet our primary and intermediate students. We're trying to really bridge that gap for our middle and high. So that they actually leave us at least reading at 4th grade level.
All I can think of when you say Wilson is Wilson.
I know. Okay, and then you'll notice a 2-question literacy questionnaire for you. And so Jessica and I are looking at some potential professional development to support you and your needs in your district. So this is a checkbox. It's not a one and done. You can choose whatever your district needs specific to literacy. So, for example, some of our districts needed some sentence level work, some needed paragraph writing, and others needed writing. If you look and you have students who can't write a complete sentence or a variety of sentences, structured literacy, advanced literacy, or if you don't require any, or if there's something specific, please add that in there. Plus, because of what Katrinka just mentioned, some of our in-person time is limited, so we would like to make sure that if in-person is what you'd prefer for your teachers, we do know that participation is greater and enhanced if it's in person, that we know that so that we can make sure that we have a facility and a place to house that. in person in your district, if you have a large number of people that need the same thing, or if you'd like to do something during PLCs, virtually during the school day or after school, if you have an idea. One of the reasons we ask this is I know that Kansas Strategies, we've offered a couple of those in the last couple of years. They're specifically for adolescents, so middle and high school students. This summer, I offered fundamentals of sentence writing, and I would like to offer the next phase of that, which is proficiency in sentence writing, which bridges the gap to paragraph writing and actual like essay writing. And that program, because it's a Kansas strategy, it can't be completed asynchronously. It has to be done at least, synchronously through someone that's able to provide that instruction. I know that you have to be certified in order to provide that professional development. So that's why I didn't put asynchronous on there in case you do want one of the Kansas strategies. Because it's not an option. So very quick, 2 questions. So if you're interested in Wilson, please fill out the Wilson. If you're interested in completing the literacy training or would like some variety, please feel free to complete this really extensive 2 questions. I knew I was following Katrinka, and anything's better than new teacher or due process.
Thank you. Can you just take the microphone to Deb while you're
I
going back there?
will.
And while she's doing that, Nancy, we're happy for you to be on as long as you need to be, but also if you need to do an update, just let me know so that you could use your day the best way that you know how, or that you need to as well. And just let Grace know in the chat if you need to go ahead and hop in. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deb Myers. Some of you that are new, I'm the Lawrence consultant here at Greg. And my helper is Teresa Valley, who is here today. She's part-time, she is good. So I'm speaking for both. First of all, I want to talk about the new and approved name of alternate assessment is the alternate Kentucky summative assessment. It's the system. And as of August 8th, I shortly after that became aware of that somehow the standards got deleted off the KDE website. So they are not on there, and as of yesterday, they still weren't on there. So they're trying to fix that. Jason Howard did send me the standards, and I put them in a Google document or a Google file. So if you click on the AKSA targets, that will take you to the Google file with all of them in there, and they're in there by content. So all grades for reading are all together, all grades for math, all that, yada, yada. So they're working diligently trying to get that all back and running. But that's our temporary fix. I'll let you know when it's back up. So that said, those teachers that are on my group, low incident, my group email distribution list, I sent that out yesterday to them, and I'm sure my list is not updated. So there's probably some teachers out there that didn't. I did get a teacher from LaRue right afterwards, responded, said, oh my God, I thought I was in my mind, I could not find them. Thank you so much. So, those things happen, technology is going over. So that said, I don't want to bombard, I know you're all really busy with beginning of the school activities and things for those of you that are back in school right now in session. But again, for those of you that are new, every fall around this time, I send out some links. I have a Excel sheet that I create that has all the different professionals that I work with, the low incident teachers and the ASD cadre and the school psychologist. So I'll be sending that out shortly to have you update, because I know there's lots of movement. I must say the school psych group has more movement than I've ever seen in all the years that I've been here. So there's lots of changes there. And I know teachers as well. So expect that. Please try to get that updated. So, things happen like the alternate standards.
I send that out to everybody. I don't send those groups out a lot of emails, just things like that that are important. If you don't want all your teachers on it, you can just send me one contact for your district and you can do a tree kind of communication. That's fine too, most districts and everybody. So expect that coming out shortly. Kelly sent out, I think it's on the direct connections, the letter and the form to fill out if you have any new and experienced teachers of all the different kinds. It can be newly certified, fresh out of Western or wherever. They could be emergency probationary, they could be option 6, all those different groups. So Teresa and I have plans for MSD cadre. We're going to really emphasize more this year things like classroom management, supplemental IEP session, which does not take the place of Patrica's, but kind of says how that might be a little different for an MSD teacher. And then some curriculum. We have some curriculum that we use, and then also systematic instruction. Learning about prompting methods and different ways to get some progress going. So that's the focus for this year. We had a group last year, and we're going to, some of those have moved on to other positions or whatever. We're going to continue support with them. So we had one last year. Might want to be talking to them about continuing, and we're going to do something different than the topics we just named and support them. So we'll have 2 groups going at the same time, the old group and the new group. And I think so expect some more information about the old group, should say old group, the continuing group. If you have any questions about that or anything, let me know. Does anyone have any questions about anything I just covered? All right, thank you so much.
Hand off to Kathy.
All right, mine is just gonna be real quick. Speaking of a lot of changes, we've had a lot of changes with our past AED over the last couple of years. So I did send you all, to my current list, a list to update. It's there linked in the agenda. So if you'll let me know, and you can put, even if it's not passed and it's EBD, look, we're all dealing with the same foundational effective components of the structured behavior program. So I can work with them too. You put what level of support that you need right now. If you want 0, I promise it will not hurt my feelings. We will take you all right off the list and your piece. And that's okay. And you can still call. This is just so I can prioritize my schedule. And some of you all well know it gets kind of hairy as time goes on and those days get filled with other things. And I really want to prioritize to see our PATH and our APD teachers. Put any notes in there, insert rows. Y'all are starting to get consultants and it's so exciting, and I'm able to work with them. So add those in there, any contacts. And again, just put what you need and tell me what you need, because this is how we roll now, because I don't see you all as much. And I'm one of those that have to be invited to the party before I come. Well, actually not always, but depends on what kind of party it is. Anyway, let me know.
Thank you, Kathy.
Questions?
Questions for Kathy about PASS or supports? All right. I can get that.
So that next link in there, that better reporting calendar is just something that I just put in there as a today reference, but it'll be in the resources, and that's the calendar that KDE put together that just has the dates for reporting. So that's just in there for you as an FYI. And then just a reminder, although we're crushing indicator 8 in the Gregg region, that window to close is approaching. I believe that they will stop accepting responses on September 1st. So if you have any last minute parents that you're trying to get, if you're like super close to that 25% and you're gonna try to reach out one more time, that'll be a great time to do that here in the last little bit to see if you can get any more responses. And Tony Lobianco is very great about getting all those results back in a timely manner. So I'll get those sent out and I'll update our spreadsheet the one last time after we get that last window closed, or the window closed at the end there. Okay. So we're gonna have another discussion time because it's time to get up and move around. So while we're getting prepared, if you all go ahead and grab your star and find your color area, we're gonna have to do a kind of a 2-for-1. We're gonna have 2 discussions at one time in one group. Yeah, so, find your people. And then I'll tell you what we're gonna do.
Cold. Again. Why is that there?
Hey, so now I ended up with an extra clipboard, so who should not have a clipboard?
I need to put one.
Well, there you go, Kel.
Like, are you kidding me?
Okay. I'm loving all this conversation and getting to know everybody. I'm sure there was some internal eye rolling at first, and I think we're gonna get it. Okay. She's probably like, oh my God. She would always say, I'm only doing this because I love you, Kelly Davis. That's true. I even got her a game one time. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so this time we're gonna have 2 discussions here. So you're gonna use your first sheet, the sheet on top, and then the one right behind it. So, so use your time wisely. We are going to ask for you all to give your best ideas about systems or strategies that you use to track timelines throughout the year for indicator 11, for those who might be looking for strategy. Recorders, if you find that everyone's kind of doing the same thing, then push your group along to go to the next question, which is what issues, trends, or needs have you seen or are you seeing regarding eligibility determination post-pandemic? So I'm just interested to know what challenges you're seeing out there, and that will help prompt us to know if there's resources that can be providing or support in district that you might need. You can also kind of say that. But then go ahead and go to the page after that on option 6, and be thinking about for those option 6, or really this could also be emergency or probationary certified. I didn't put that on there, but they're all sort of in the same boat, right? Not having a lot of experience coming in. Be interested to know on the left-hand side, what kind of strategies or supports you already provide in your district? Like what are, so we can share those great ideas with other people. And then what are ways your district could use support from Greg, if any? If there's something that you feel like, hey, it would be great to have this, either this resource, this training, this on-site support, whatever it might be, just kind of identify some of those things in the right-hand column. So we're gonna try to do all these things in about 8 minutes. So, great people try to keep the conversation going. We'll come back around. If we need more time, we will, but we're gonna try to be very focused with our, just with our brainstorming and our thoughts here, okay? So ready, go. I want you to think, we're not gonna go through all of these topics and share out because we'll be here till, 6 o'clock tonight if we do that. Part of this was for my staff and I to be able to gather some information about needs and interests and things like that. But if there's like a standout comment or question or aha or whatever from any of the categories, then we'll share those out. And we'll start with the green group. How about the green group? We'll go around this way. Yeah. Yes, please. Let me come over there.
I mean, I'm loud.
It's hard.
Okay, for indicator 11, so, and what we're doing to track, we're obviously our sites have Google Sheets that they track everything in. Some of us are having sites turn in information periodically about overdue timelines, so we kind of have an idea. And I think Joni's having speech, turn in timelines, I have failed in that. As far as trends in eligibility, we said, the lack of reading and math for those that did not participate in virtual instruction and what to do about it. And that the benchmark data on our, already in math and all that, like, took a big plummet, but it's starting to come back up.
Actually, it was just pick, one or two family points, that's okay. It's all figure fine. I agree, like, and most chat, remember, you want to share.
Yeah, well, we just said with, as far as our new teachers, having those like little nuggets of like trainings that they can access at any time for strategy, like actual specially designed instruction.
Can I ask a question on that? Has anybody been using that LRP resource to give training modules or videos? Anybody use that yet? Never mind, sorry.
I don't know, Kenny, if you do.
All right, you've got the floor. I got my rubber.
Okay, so the eligibility and unpaid for the added awareness, we brought up, the fact that we have a lot of parents, bringing 504 to the table, wanting that, and, they don't qualify for IEPs, they want to do a 504 and not recognizing that what they call plan. We did have a long list for Brett as far as, the support. So we got teaching on there, really for teaching, progress monitoring, things that the officers struggle with that. Then we got like with our MSD, and those teachers struggle with scheduling, reading schedules for those kids. And management of instructional assistants. And you guys do the boot camp for the paraeducators, but we think that our struggle with managing taking over paraeducators. And then the other thing we just put aside on here is those trainings and finding stuff. So
Yeah.
and those teachers. There's a little money now, but that money will.
Yes.
Also, a side note about 504, I know everybody's talking 504 coordinator, but a lot of these are, and I think was it Kim Justice who emailed me about the OCR, was it you? Somebody, one of you emailed me and was asking about this new guidance that came out from the Office of Civil Rights around meeting the needs of students, mental health needs, and through the 504 plan. Oh, what, anyway, somebody, and I was like, yeah, I've already sent this to Teresa Combs, because this whole document kind of, I'm gonna say, sort of freaks me out a little bit, because it kind of makes it sound like the OCR is encouraging a school district to follow the same level of process and consideration that you do for an IEP for 504. Like you read it, you're like, well, this sounds like the IEP process, and then you see that they're still talking about section 504 plans. And so I've asked Teresa to weigh in, and I'm gonna ask her to really cover that in that first network meeting in September. Try to break down that OCR opinion or guidance or whatever it is, and what does that actually mean for 504? I mean, I can't imagine that you should, it's talking about like having a team like an IEP team, and it's crazy when you read it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to find out more about that. So just to let you know.
Kelly, before you go on that, I do want to mention one thing. Somebody talked about nuggets and training in specific areas. The Splash program, which isn't anymore, but they had developed all the Splash modules were created to be online, and it's housed on the HDI website. But I have group management. So if you want to sign someone up for any of those modules, contact me, and then I will set them up in the group management. There's things like scheduling, visual support, working with paras, etc. So that's an online resource that we could use. They're older, but some of that stuff doesn't change much. So
Thank you, Deb. All right.
so looking at option 6, one of the things that we talked about is Greg may be doing a boot camp, an IEP boot camp maybe in January, because we focus a lot on IEP paperwork, but teachers also have questions about curriculum and how to pace that in a resource room, and then behavior management strategies. And sometimes in the beginning, they don't even know what questions to ask. So giving them a little bit of time to get acclimated to the situation. And then for transition, we talked a little bit about just having a list of companies in our communities that would be willing to open their doors to let our kids come to work. Would be helpful. Yeah, so. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, one other thing that's been discussed, but one item that, and it's not necessarily post-pandemic, but we continue to see it on the rise when it comes to eligibility, speech services. Our numbers are out the roof when it comes to speech eligibility. And we're working with our therapists in district to get a handle on this in a sense by looking at RTI differently. But I think that again is an area maybe of even training, even maybe for us as directors to look at those guidelines that they go by and when, you know, they feel like they're making correct determinations and maybe dissect those a little bit more. And, you know, just to learn more about what is eligibility for speech, what isn't, and how to maybe somehow foretell those just a little bit, those eligibilities.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that, because one of the things we really talk about is that for speech specifically, a lot of times you have to look at it, does it rise to being an adverse impact on educational performance? I gave the example of if a student has one sound, they might qualify for the IEP for articulation, but is it impacting, how much is it impacting their ability to be understood, their ability to socialize with their peers or whatever? And so are we actually getting an adverse impact, or are we just going, well, they meet the criteria, so we're going to give them an IEP? And I think I know it's an ongoing debate, but anyway, so we can definitely talk about that. I keep looking at Lauren.
Yes. Don't worry, I'm not listening.
Actually, I don't want to be kind of on all costs outside what has been mentioned, except for ways that Greg can support in the area of option 6. If you could really just grow or recruit and retain highly qualified teachers, then send it to us. One of the things we did talk about in focus areas as far as, you know, we had in the speech library, but sometimes I think our WD population, especially relative to option 6, needs that help. And I even think about when I send them to IEP training, they probably come and it sounds like the teacher on Charlie Brown, because they don't even know the language, and to try to tell them what to do, they get lost in it. And so having that network of support for them, what else?
Well, one thing that came out of our conversations that we try to address a lot of through our COPs, you know, the virtual, because districts are not able to send people, so we try to go to them through virtually. But now I'm hearing that we want to send people back to in person, makes it more meaningful.
And but then it's that struggle of can you find sites and yeah.
As far as transition, you know, it was suggested maybe a transition cadre, like they know that there's the risk, but just the transition cadre as educators, that we talk about those things, and then maybe do some collaboration with the risk, so they know where those resources are, and they can.
I have more on that in a minute, so there's something maybe coming down the pipe on that, so I'm real excited. Okay.
Oh, that's okay. We got 15 profits. Okay, well, I don't know if you qualify this an option 6, so it's very interesting, and you are correct. All you hear for 2 years is, so none of it makes sense. But everybody in our group has mentors for those option 6 people. And then this year in our district, we have decided we're only focusing on due process with them, because most of ours are co-teachers. We decided the instruction is going to come, but we have to get this part right first. And then the other piece that we are all, as soon as one person said it, we're all like, yes, that's it. These kids that are coming back that have literally had no instruction, like K's and one, especially K's right now, who didn't go to preschool and they're coming in with autism, with no diagnosis, that, and then we have older kids who have been either never in school or they've been homeschooled for a long time. And then what do you do as far as, oh, you're supposed to be a fourth grader, but you're nowhere near because you've never had instruction. So that was one thing our helper was like, yeah, and then ABA therapy and kids going 2 days, 3 days, 1 day. That's all they eat.
I don't think we had anything that ever just said.
Well, I want a refund on that one.
I have to transition. Two of our counties are very, very small, and so transportation, we don't have public transportation. And even if they get their driver's license, which a lot don't, but even if they do, there's not a vehicle for them to drive. So, transportation is a big barrier for us, and then not furthering education past high school. Very few of ours want to go to college and do that route. And for the needs or concerns students that might be supported through training, Robert said just mentioned, and then maybe understanding the college application better and how to apply. And I personally would like to see us go back to the transition job fairs that Greg used to do and participate in, because I think that was really cool.
Okay, eligibility, we're kind of on the other end of more, instead of seeing so many referrals right now, is having littles coming in that have not had first steps or any kind of services that are very clearly in the lower MSC range, ASC, that parents just did not know. I've got just offhand, I can have 4 meetings I'm having next week of kids that will qualify eventually, but they won't get that initial services. So that's a trend that we're seeing.
I have option 6, and I think it sounded like that we had very similar things. We have new teacher cadres, we have mentors, those kind of things. So I think the districts are trying to support option 6 and the co-op that training, we said a lot of training, training, those kind of things. One thing that I wanted to say, and this may not be a conversation that you all have, but I did this with an option 6 candidate the other day. Universities, and one in particular, told us staff person in my district that it's easier to go ahead and finish your general studies. You don't have to pay for student teaching. Went ahead and graduated. She was option 6, so she doesn't have student teach. She will leave with her master's in rank 2. So day 1 will be paid while she's doing that master's. That is happening, and I think that's why we have so many. It's part of the reason. Again, if we've not looked at the option 7 and option 9, that's come along, but basically we just don't have anything. So I think some of the colleges, maybe not all, universities are looking for the districts are happening to institutions. Well, I don't explain that, but I mean, and this was a good candidate that she was in the teacher press, told her to see
People that are in other jobs.
No, I don't know if that's something that you want to her, but she needed to give her fellow studies and she will have her ready to work.
All right, we've been around, we've got the new people. You all were first, right? Okay, all right, y'all make your way back to your seats, and then I'll let, while they're doing that, if the new crew wants to get ready to share anything else that they might have.
You just really wanted that.
If anybody's on there. Looks like we got Jamie, Lisa, Randy. Do y'all have anything to add to that discussion on Zoom? Zoom friends?
That hasn't already been said.
Okay, all I heard was that hasn't already been said, so you don't have anything to add that hasn't already been said, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. For the moment, well, actually, I think what we need to do is maybe take a break. Yes. We need a quick bathroom break. Everybody's looking at me like I have worms growing out my head. Do you not need a break? I just think people need a break. Do I want to keep going or I want to break? Everybody looks at me like, what is she talking about? She's speaking a foreign language. Break? No break. What break? No.
5 minutes.
Oh. So we're good.
Just keep rolling.
Keep rolling, okay. So we'll use the law of 2 feet. You need to take a break, you go get one, okay? All right. I'm gonna skip waivers for the moment. That was just gonna be like an overview, like an annual overview, but if we have time, we'll go back to it. I do want to get to these director discussion topics because these are the ones that you all sent in. Before I do that, I don't want to forget though to tell you about, I just found this out. It says hot off the presses. It's this Dot Community. It's a free trial. You can sign up for this. It's Dot Community for educators. It's all these free like little trainings and resources, and you can get a year-long subscription for no money. Training and topics around stress management, SEL, speech and language development, handwriting support, self-care for educators. I have not vetted this yet, so I would encourage you to just do it yourself first and take a look before you start sending it out to your teachers or anybody in your district. But anybody can get in here and use this for like a year at no cost. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was available. And because I just got it yesterday, like I said, I have not vetted it at all. Okay. So, Sandy, you're first up on director discussion. Sandy had sent me an email back a little bit ago, and let's talk about this at the DOS meeting about POE changes from First Step. So do you want to share a little bit about your concern?
We may not be in the same, like, the point of entry or anything, but I had received this email from, Adonta is ours, I think out of Somerset, and the page, it was just a page of pages run on things about what they were not allowed to do, what they didn't share with us. They're saying we no longer will, did you get that done? We will no longer refer children, that's yours, and so even information, and we've asked again and asked very nicely, how are we supposed to refer children we have never met? We can't verify interventions, and their point is, well, this is not our information to share. Parents don't share it. These are independent contractors. And I'm like, well, no, they're not. Someone's paid for the information to be collected. Who owns this information? Can't get an answer to that. And so I've got all these First Steps transitions, and I am getting nothing. And so she sent this page, and Kelly, I just shared it with her. It's so poorly written, but it's not anything that's going to help us do. It is everything that they want. And so, to me, I didn't know, but there's been changes to First Steps. I am not aware of it, but it's the other part of the region that's having the same issue. I don't know.
Well, we're not out of Somerset, but
it's a doctor, isn't it?
yes. But we may be out of town. But I remember getting that. And then that's one of our indicators for honesty. You know, the week I got in place by the first person.
It is out of our control.
Right, so is life skills, did you all get anything on that?
I mean, the office, I deal with a lot of our First Steps transition. And I thought this was gonna be a fast therapist to work with, but nothing like that. Like it's just that they went virtual and they very much stayed in that virtual mentality, and so then they schedule
they schedule transition meetings at 5:30 or 7 p.m. or, whatever. They give us 45 minutes notice, lots of little things like that. But they do still give us the first step evaluation. And funny enough, I've kind of seen this go on a roller coaster over the last several years that the kids are getting evaluated later instead of sooner. A lot of times those evaluations are pretty current. And we hit the ones that have standard scores, the one that first eval has standard scores, so some of those are pretty current within less than 6 months, quite often, and then turning 3. It's causing part of the issue too, though, because it's like, it's not this natural process. Like, they've barely been in first steps to get any services before they're ready to transition to us in the preschool setting. That's all I'm saying. The life skills has not sent us anything that says they will not send it. I mean, they're locking it up. You gotta do the little special, it's encrypted. And
Like you do with the RC list.
yeah,
So here's what I'm thinking that I might do. So there's, we got that email, I don't know how long ago it was where, and I didn't really understand the language, but that the preschool in Oakville has been elevated to an office within the office. Did y'all understand? I didn't really know what that means, but anyway, Thomas, not last name. Thomas. Williams, yeah, thank you, who is kind of overseeing preschool. Nancy, do you think it would be a good idea for maybe me just to shoot these concerns to him and ask, this would be another great thing for them to cover at the Dose Institute, I think, to talk about some of these barriers that districts are facing with the transition from first step to preschool. What do you think, Nancy?
I think that's a good idea, and I don't think it's a bad idea to share some of those with Paula Goff too, that's in charge of First Steps.
Should I maybe just send it to both of them at the same time?
I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay, so Sandy, is it okay if I share the letter that you got without attaching your name to it?
Absolutely, because like she sent it to Johnny West, she sent it out to all us coordinators.
Okay.
We're not gonna do this for them.
Yeah.
Basically, and we're not getting the referrals, and we have some issues like,
I called the lady in Somerset and sent the letter out. Does anybody get the referrals from First Step still? From District 2? So,
We don't have any problems in our area.
who's your provider?
Ours is with Green River.
when I called her, I asked her why they were stopping this process of giving us the referral, and they said that the referrals was a district form, and that by their First Steps regulations, that they're not allowed to fill out any forms that are not their forms.
Okay, do you know why because I was gonna meet with Head Start and give them a copy of a referral form. And when I went into Infinite Campus in the blank forms, the referral form is not on there. When I went to KDE's website, where it has forms and documents, the referral form is not on their website either.
I was gonna give the referral form to Head Start, and so I went up, I'm like, this is the only thing that I can have in my notes, so I sent it to Joe McGowan and said, can you please send me a referral? He sent me the old form that we use, not even the form that's up to date on Infinite Campus that we have to go in. And he said, here's what I have in my notes, and so I sent back and said, thank you, Joe. I have this in my notes, but could you send me to the link to the one that's currently on IEP that meets what we're monitoring? And he said, no, we don't have that.
You don't have that.
Yeah, I've got that on my email. And he's very quick to respond. He's very pleasant, but like, here it is. And so when I sent back, I said, well, I appreciate it, but this is the one I have, but it's not what we're.
It's very outdated.
Very outdated.
I've got to say more.
And he just said, we do not have that. It's not on, no, it's not on the webpage. There's a reason you can't find it.
It's
We
like
don't have it in electronic.
We don't have to fill out the referral.
that's what I was.
We do the referral. We'll go to their 90-day transition meeting, they invite us to that, and then we call our own meeting here to do the No, we do that too, Amanda, but we give them the form first to list their interventions, all of that. No, I don't like that. I go to the transit, and I come and take a blank copy and I can fill all that out.
But if you take a blank copy, where are you using the blank copy without attaching it to a child's name?
I just print one off of, they're on the side there when you get on. There's like one. Cause I looked, and then I just had to print it off. And they this morning, yeah.
Okay, so this is a hot mess.
Yeah.
Anything that you want me to share with Paula other than, what David already sent me is that form, compose in an email, so I'll have all the bullet points and I'll put it all in one giant email of hers. I will. Okay. Jessica Taylor, substitute teachers, caseloads and waivers. Oh. I was looking over in the green area, Jessica.
Where I was all past last.
I didn't say that.
I don't think that we're alone in this, but do other people have subs filling positions for you? Okay, so what are you doing about the caseloads and certification? Because I sent an email to April Keeper and said, A, am I gonna have to do waivers on all of these subs, or does sub certification cover special ed? And she said, no, you have to do waivers. And I said, and can they carry a caseload? And she said, no, you could do a waiver to go over caseload, but I'm not sure that would help. So, does anyone have any idea, what are you doing for the caseloads for your sub? Or whatever.
I think as long as the new teacher.
Yeah. You're welcome. No, the retired teachers are fine, but we have some that are.
If they're a retired special ed teacher, they can have a caseload, right? Okay. If they're retired special ed.
If they still have current.
If they still have their current.
Split it up. We had two teachers, like our past coach and another teacher, they just divided a caseload up and.
What is your capacity?
Yeah, you're at more than capacity. Does anybody else have that issue that you're having you're over capacity, you can't find any teachers? And what are you doing?
Well, actually, it'll be two ways. It'll be one, their program teacher assignment, and then your other one will be over your caseload. And do you have to do a program teacher assignment for an emergency certified teacher? I never have. But when I look at that sample form on there, they're not certified for the area they're teaching. So you have to do a waiver if they're emergency certified. I didn't have one in a long time.
Do you all for emergency certified?
I never had.
Y'all do a program teacher waiver? Because they're emergency, they're certified, but it doesn't say. Yeah.
I know all that, but I just sat here and got to thinking.
I would think you don't, because they're.
I'm good with that.
Okay. We'll go for it. We'll go for it. All right, so Jessica, it sounds like there's not, I don't know what to split. I know, I figured that would probably be what you're supposed to do. I don't know, there's no teachers. There's no subs. We're all gonna do our best and
Take the next step.
take our lunch. Take our lunch.
Take one half off, put something on.
Christy Bolton, are you still on Zoom and do you want to talk about staffing shortages? Okay, so we'll skip that one for now. All right, where's Heather? Oh, so Heather was asking, had emailed me asking about, does anybody have virtual programs or curriculum that you use for students with disabilities? And she's just looking for ideas. And I said, I thought there were some who had some things, so I just thought we could just have a quick shout out today. What types of virtual programs specifically for students with disabilities does anybody use in their district? Imagine Learning, literacy components.
He's already with reading math.
Already reading the math. Monica, don't you have something in Warren County? I was thinking that there was something in Warren County, some kind of virtual encore. And did Owensboro have something?
We do still use Classmarks in our home district now, what I read these over there, and people, but yes, especially we do have.
Classworks.
And a chunk of change on them.
Yes, it's very good though. Classworks. Anything else? I heard somebody else. say. Okay. Oh. Alexia. Lexia. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Okay. Anything else? All right. Katrinka had a question from someone, so.
Stay right there, Miss Tracy. She said she was okay with the question she had, she can give the nuances for it.
Okay.
It was kind of about virtual, you know, we've had a lot of kids moving in and out, especially our middle and high, you know, they just keep going virtual companies, virtual companies. And some of our teachers are wondering on IEPs, like, what wording do you put on LRE, what about special service minutes, you know, what does that look like? So I was just asking, she was like, let's ask that at the next meeting, so there you go. Good.
So they might have some good kind of phraseology that they're using around the LRE and the minutes and all that, when that bouncing back and forth in virtual and in school.
And you're not supposed to like say,
I know, but
I know, so it's coaching.
I know,
Yeah.
And we kind of started putting, because some of ours will go into credit recovery, and some of ours will go into the alternative spending. And we just started putting on the LRE, like an alternate setting. So whether it's credit recovery, this room, whether it's whatever, but when they go virtual, we do our thing.
We don't let them go back and forth.
Yeah.
So if you're in and you go back and you're back, we don't let you go back first.
And that's a good point, and I do think some districts have some kind of policies in place like that. You have to pick at the beginning of the year, and you have to this date, and after that, that's where you are for the rest of the year. And so that's another way you could kind of address that issue, maybe not this year, but.
I will say that we did a similar thing where we said, you're gonna have to like decide, at least by a semester that you would have to make a decision. And now we're pretty much saying all year. But we had a knowledgeable special ed teacher who did it with her own child and kind of pulled my kid has an IEP and this is the reason I want this. And then we work on stuff like, so you can, it's like you tell the parents that this is, you can't go back to the first. But when they push comes to shove, it's kind of hard to say, well, this is an option for this kid, and my kid has special reasons and circumstances for this. So it's still being our decision though.
Yeah, so if the ARC couldn't find a good reason for it, they could still say, sorry, special ed.
They have it.
Yeah, I know, sometimes they can be convincing. All right,
Hey, I have a question.
hang on, we had one comment over here first.
So Simpson County, we're not doing virtual option this year, so we kind of got rid of that, but to document it on LRE, what we did last year is if the parents chose virtual, we documented it on the LRE that the committee felt that the best placement for the child was in the school setting. However, parent requested virtual, therefore student will receive virtual instruction at home. So that's how we document it there.
But then what do you do on the minutes? Like, how did you?
We would do like consultation, like consultation minutes.
So like someone will call every unit or so much for 10 minutes or sometimes you give them your SDI and all that. Some of ours have done like Google Classrooms and, you know, all of those things, like Google Meets and, you know, I said if they could do like carry my Chromebook in here and live instruction, you know, then how are you gonna get a kid, you know, 8th grader to get up at 8 o'clock for their math class?
they're not
to
gonna do it,
It's a
so.
contract, and they have a 30-day trial, so every kid regardless is evaluated at the 30-day mark to see, are they participating, are they doing what they're supposed to do? And if not, then they come right back to the in person. And the ARC meet to determine if their services need to be met first, if not, then we don't.
So I'm just gonna reiterate that for the new people. So Jessica was saying that, they do a 30-day contract.
Well, it's a contract, but then
Contract.
every kid is reviewed at the 30-day mark.
Every day, every kid is reviewed at the 30-day mark, and if they're not making progress, they have to come back to school. And what else did you say?
Determine, the ARC determine.
Right, and that's really important because, you know, we've heard all through the pandemic and even after that from people like Julie Weatherly, Teresa Combs, and, you know, that it is completely up to the ARC to say to the parent, if the parent wants virtual and virtual is not appropriate for that student, the ARC has a legal obligation to say, your child has to be educated in school because that's the setting that's most appropriate, and this is what the ARC, you know, has agreed upon. And then the parent then has to decide if they're gonna challenge that through a due process, or if they're gonna pull them out of school and homeschool them, or whatever they're gonna do, then that's on them, then it's not on you. You've got your legal obligation because you're providing what you know the student needs, which is an IEP implemented in the school setting. Yeah.
So my question is, our new, this kind of along the lines of the virtual, with our new COVID policy for all kids, if they go and they get tested and they're positive, we're automatically giving the parents the option to go to our home hospital right at that moment. So they're, we're doing home hospital, so they're, and the reason for doing that is because, you know, now attendance counts. If we're going back to funding, you know, based on attendance, so that means counting, they won't be asked and all that. So, you know, I brought up when they rolled out the policy, I said, okay, you see, good kids on the home hospital, because it's places together in orange. So I didn't know if any other.
Well, the ARC has to make it place.
Yeah.
It's pretty make that place.
Well, what they're doing is they get their COVID test, because we have, you know, healthcare there on campus. They're automatically having them sign the form, and then you can go to home hospital. So,
No, they can do the form, but the ARC has to, the ARC can override the medical statement. Like, they can write it, they can fill out the form, and the doctor signs it, then you take that form to the ARC. That's what I'm saying, the ARC has to be, still has to, it has to be like a student, right? But I tell you, it's terrible, but.
Okay, recent, guidance from the state is to not put consultation in minutes. So that's one thing to be careful about, because that can go under, that's for when we're fading, like say speech, and that would be a program modification for school personnel. So we have to put actual SDI minutes in there, so they still have to get that.
So, I know, but what you can do is consider in the ARC, if a student is in school and they're getting some minutes and they're in like a large group setting, especially like for co-top minutes, and then they're gonna be on in a more one-on-one or a more small group, you can probably provide that STI less minutes than you could in the larger setting. So you can probably in a lot of cases adjust those minutes down, which you probably already thought of, but that's just another thing to kind of throw into the mix there. All right, and then you have some.
But it is a change of placement, or it is not a change of placement, whenever the parents say, hey, I want my kid to go in virtual.
Change of placement, right? Change of location. Correct.
Well, change of, it's, a change in set, it's not always brick and mortar, but it is services.
So it could be a change in placement depending on what you to change something completely different.
And I mean, if you're changing minutes and you're changing how that's gonna look and how that's gonna take place. And maybe even, you know, modification and assignments and accommodation, so I would think you would have to meet.
Yeah, of course, anytime somebody does change in placement, I think discipline, so.
Yeah. Well, I
Which is probably other change of placement, so yeah, change in location is a more accurate way to say it, I think.
Don't call it.
Girl, in Kentucky, you can't say that a kid's gonna use a different restroom in school without having an art meeting. I mean, like, for real. You have an art meeting for everything in Kentucky, so just, if you have any question, go ahead, be on the safe side and have an art. Well,
Access to general curriculum language, the person would be. I don't know why, go back and think that, but I think it's something Teresa told us years ago, that when you change access to general education, population.
Yeah, it's like alternative placement, if they're not getting forest, or they're not getting greenhouse. And then it's a change in placement.
yeah, so have an art meeting, that's just the, you know, whatever you wanna call it, have an art meeting and document how you're gonna meet the needs in the different settings. Yeah. Yes, as what you're talking about, probably so.
I'm just saying these things.
Again, because I think, I don't know, I guess everybody interprets it differently. On that notice form, when it says change in placement, I think that's a disciplinary notice. That's what I think that is. That's in my mind, that's what that means that. But if you're changing minutes, you're looking at a different location, you're looking at having to change the structure of your services because you're moving from in-person to virtual, that's review, revision of the IEP. That's what I would check on that. I agree with you, Cindy. Thumbs up. All right. Okay, we've got a few minutes. Who else has a partner update? Who's even on? We've got our two friends here. What do we have for C and D outreach? Are you already gave an update, but I mean, with your position, anything else that you want to share today?
One thing I see the wrong link patches that usually for request services until instead of my goes before.
Oh, well, that's what I thought that you wanted to say.
It's okay to leave it, but I just go ahead and email because I clicked on it, but that's not what I thought.
Okay.
So she will connect my ghost report in there. It's basically the same one that I did use last year, when it says what services are offered and what I've been working on. One thing we've gone back to is our weekly update. So you can go to our website at any time and find our weekly update of everything that's going on with our services. And then the language application program, the only other big change we're doing, and I'm so excited about, is all of our student events are going to be live this year, or they're not happening. So we didn't have as much turnout with students doing them virtual, and kids are still burned out on virtual. It's just like, it didn't work out well. So we're going to try to do a spelling bee again. So that's going to be in the fall, and then we're going to do LINK, which is our student learning fair. And then during that, we're going to address a lot of the common core curriculum for deaf and hard of hearing things. So.
Thank you. It's a pleasure here today. All right, Angela.
Is it okay?
Nancy?
Is it okay if I go next, or just whenever you're ready for me, let me know?
Hey, Nancy, and we're so glad you're here today, even if it's virtual, glad to have you with us.
Thank you. I'd rather be in person, but I'm proud to be here virtually. Anyway, with that, but I just basically will refer you to our newsletter that Kelly sent out. A couple of things though, I do want to mention our COS trainings are continuing, and we're about to get all of our districts trained, the initial training on COS. But if you have questions with the child outcomes, just let us know and we'll try to follow up with that. I also want to mention our fall leadership is September the 22nd, and it's at the Bruce Center in Hopkinsville. And so we hope you would be able to come to that. We are having new coordinators training on September the 1st at Penny Ross State Park in Dawson Springs. And then the other thing that I'd like to mention, just a date to remember, if you're both preschool coordinator and the dose, is our Head Start full utilizations are to be completed as of September 1st, and then they'll be submitted on September the 15th. So really, those are the main things I wanted to mention to you all. But if you do have any questions or anything, I'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, and I did submit the letter about the information on least restricted environment indicator 6 to our folks to be sure to put on the DOSE Institute, the DOSE and the Preschool Coordinators Institute.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right.
All right, for KSB, I just have a couple of things. Our first cadre meeting will be September 20th at Grayson County Board of Education. If you could get your TBIs there, and I know some of them do SPED, but we are addressing a problem we're seeing. Basically, I'm having an O&M specialist come in and teach the TBI what they can legally do inbound without an O&M, because as we know, most of us cannot find an O&M. So, if we could get them there, that would be awesome, because we will be reviewing that. Another thing is we're gonna try to have a field trip this year, hopefully in person in October for our region, our VI kiddos. One thing I did want to know, visually impaired preschool services, we're actually trying to bridge the gap with that. We are working directly with them and having them send the consultants kiddos that we know are aging out, so we can let the TBIs know and let you all know. So they're actually trying to communicate better. So yay for that. Last thing, technology. I know we've been having trouble with our low vision clinics, getting the reports, which Enhance has trouble getting technology through quota funds, through KIMRC. So now we are actually changing the process. So this is very new. We're excited. We are looking at just being able to borrow that equipment if your district doesn't have it, so you can utilize the lending library here or the one at KSB and take data on that technology saying, hey, it is helping the student in the classroom. And then you can then get the technology with quota funds without having to have that low vision report.
Oh, nice.
So yes, it's gonna really help the process. And you can also go ahead, if you have an assistive technology report on file, we can go ahead and send that in as well, and that will suffice as well.
That training for the VI starting OEM,
September 20th.
Yep. And let's see, if anything you send me, I can shoot out to, send something to me, or I was just on an email, who did I go to? Yes, so I've still got that, but if I can't find it, I'll get it from you again. I'll try to give a reminder about that. That would be a really good one for people to go to, because, they're all good, but especially this, because if you have students who are needing O&M and there's no O&M, this is gonna be a nice bridge for that, so it'd be good to have your people there to hear all of that. Okay. I'm looking. Any case updates, Robin, Cynthia?
No, we're just starting to work on next year's conference.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? We're 8 minutes early.
Just an FYI, I sent you an email with the referral form, the blank one and the interactive one, but it is the previous one. So if anybody wants it, you can share it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. That's a lot. Okay, so I've probably got a lot of emails from people today, so give me a few days. If I miss something, just please follow up. It's not because I'm not trying to be responsive, but sometimes it all gets away from all of us at some point. So if you haven't heard anything and you're looking for a certain thing that you thought I was going to be sharing after today, just go, hey, y'all get that to us, and I'll be like, I will do that. The sign out for today is at the bottom of the agenda. If you haven't already filled that out, that will give you your ELIP certificate once you have completed the sign out. No, just a sign out. And there's no reason to sign in this time. Just one is enough for me. That's your sign in / sign out, I guess. Anyway, if you don't get that automated email that has your attachment for your ELIP certificate, then it probably went to your junk mail. But if you go there and you don't see it, then email and we'll figure out what happened, because we've got that word automated that comes through.
All right. Our next meetings are going to be September, small group. We will hold waivers over till then. But you do have the information there. This is I will just say this real quick, that slide deck has not been updated by KDE since 2019. But I don't think that any waiver information has really changed. So I think that information is still current. If you want to go ahead and look through that and then maybe send me any questions that you might have, we can probably facilitate that part of the September meeting a little more quickly. And does anybody have anything else before we? Yes, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. So, y'all, Marisa Duarte is one of the most low key, like humble, if you ever want to like make it look like, you know, shine a light on her. But you all may not know this, but Kim Hawkins from Allen County has moved into a different position in Allen County. She's the DAC and
Director of Federal Programs.
Director of Federal Programs. And guess who is the new Director of Special Education for Allen County Schools? And your assistant is Heather Harwood. She's been to a meeting with us before, but she's been doing assistant in Allen County. So congratulations. You should have given yourself a little shout out earlier when I was shouting out to other people. I thought there was something else, maybe it was Wednesday, maybe I was gonna share something else that was like the mindful celebration. Anybody had a celebration you want to share before? I had my celebration. I had some 3 months out of cardiac arrest. Also, both of my children are off my payroll officially. It's like getting, I told somebody, it looks like getting a pay raise. I mean, all the things you didn't realize you're paying for that, like, hey, we're gonna remodel our bedroom now. Here we are.
They come back with more. It doesn't get there. They come back.
Well, we're in the honeymoon period right now.
Start saving, but
That's right, for all the things. Anyway, thanks for coming today. That was a lot on the agenda. I hope it wasn't too much, but anyway, y'all were great. I hope y'all like the activities, because we're gonna continue to do those so we can get to know each other and just